the lighting on?
one knows. We get these pills to swallow. How they stick in your mouth. Oh no, I'm gonna get a copyright claim. And we're live!
You won't.
I always do that to you.
You might do. I mean, if you like.
I get claims all the time because I always use clips of songs, but I have everything like the monetization on my channel is turned off. I don't really care. I don't want.
Were you listening to that song then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great album. Songs for the Deaf.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so
shit.
good.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Fuck. Put my headphones on.
Oh. Well, hurry up. So
Should
unprofessional.
have fucking told me, dickhead.
I'm never gonna tell you. That's always gonna be like that.
There you go.
Oh, there you
Ready.
go. Check.
Go get ready to rock.
What's that lyric? KLON Los Angeles, Clone Radio. We play the songs that sound more like everyone else than anyone else. Clone. What's the saga? I need a saga. That's so funny.
It is a great. I mean, I don't think it's technically the intro, but it's like it's the
they
album.
have that song. They have like they do have an intro song to that.
It's like a strange.
It's not a song. I don't know why I'm calling it a song, but
It's an interlude.
yeah, like they used to have in all the R&B albums. Remember I was telling you?
Yeah. The voicemails and shit.
Yeah, I remember it the most from Biggie albums because it was like a lot of rap albums had them in between every song. The Janet Jackson album I was telling you about that I listened to, it's like every 4 or something like that. It's random places.
Yeah. Well, that the intro to I don't think it's it's not because what's the one where there's like they're like outside stalking his house.
Oh yeah, that was before. Fuck, what song was that before? No, it's before and it's at the end. So before they're like sneaking up to the house, and then at the end they get
Yeah.
because they're like outside of Biggie's house is what I assume, right?
They're like
Then
you got
both
a red
like
dot.
yeah.
You got a red dot on your head, man.
And then they're both like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah. So good.
Yeah. So
Did you ditto fucking jinx? Now you can't say anything for the rest of the stream.
yeah, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I don't fucking know how to do that.
What? Shut up.
Yep.
So did you watch About Sun?
Yes, I did. Oh,
did
you
you
know
think?
what? That one was really nice because it's all just scenery and it's his voice and he's just talking the whole time, like talking about like growing up in Aberdeen. And oh my God, in the first 5-7 minutes, I started crying because he was talking about how he went out to a restaurant and he would like spill water or something and then his dad would strike him. Like he would smack him in the face or like give him a really hard noogie or whatever. And I was just
And
like,
be oh, you're an idiot. Yeah.
yeah. And then he's like, I've never understood like how somebody can be so insecure and like be so worried about what other people think that they're smacking their child or like abusing their child. You know what I mean? And I was just like, fuck, like been there, done that. And it just made me start crying like a goddamn baby. Yeah.
What, you mean like a normal human being?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, yeah. But it's, yeah, like, because it's strange because in that, like, there's this, the way he talks about how his dad used to be, like, his dad was like a logger or something. And there was that time when he drained the car battery because he was listening to Queen all day long. Do you remember that story? And like, and then apparently his dad was kind of okay with it. Like, he wasn't really that pissed off. But then there was other times where he get really pissed off with him. Like his dad seemed really, really, really strange. I don't know.
Remember that comic that he did where like the father is against the mom's belly and he's like, oh, listen to him, he's kicking, I'm gonna make him like a faggot hating whatever. Well, yeah,
beef eating American,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
faggot hating,
Yeah, and then the
spit.
baby kicks her right through the fucking stomach, right through the head, and I was like, damn.
Yeah,
But you get a
yeah.
like such a good idea of him, and I understand why he doesn't like that like macho man kind of behavior because he was talking about that. He's like, I fucking hate that macho bullshit, that macho manly bullshit. Like, yeah, I
Well, he
get
was a
it.
well. I think whatever you're around as at a young age, and whatever you feel targeted by, or whatever you feel alienated from, you end up carrying that with you a little bit and hating it. And I mean, I know I did. I know, like growing up, I hated like scallies and shit because I would end up getting in fights or have the shit kicked out of me. Like when I was very young. I mean, when I got older and I was a lot bigger, like it didn't really happen.
Yeah.
And police, and they always get stopped and pulled over and searched by police and things. All my mates did. It happened a lot. I mean, that's how I got arrested that one time. Well, technically arrested, but the yeah, and like I always hated the police. I always hated like scallies. There was even one point where like I hated everything to do with it. I hated football. I hated all that shit. And then when I got older, I had more of an appreciation of it. And I think even though Kurt hated all that stuff, I think one of the things that he dealt with that he couldn't deal with psychologically was he thought like he had all this anger from towards his parents about like them splitting up and not being
Yeah.
able to work it out, and then he ended up getting to the point where he was basically going to be having a divorce, and I think he probably came to the realization like, oh shit, this thing is really hard to like have a cohesive marriage and make it work, and
But he says
I
it so
think
many times that like no matter what happens, even if Courtney and I divorce, I'll always make sure that her and I are leaving on terms good enough so that we can at least take care of Francis. And that's one thing he never understood about parents in general is you should be able to keep it civil for the sake of your children if you do decide that you're not going to be together anymore. Like my parents were like that too. They were extremely volatile towards each other after they split up. But that's understandable because my dad split her head open, right? So once you have that kind of abuse and like, you know, my mom's always going to carry that hatred with her, and she did like till the last time I spoke with her. Anytime she mentioned him, she just hated the idea of me talking to him or communicating with him at all because he was such an abusive piece of shit. And that's never going to leave her.
oh
It's
yeah,
never going to
I
leave
wouldn't
her. Like
expect
he busted her head open, you know? Fuck you, dude. I hate that shit.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? There's certain lines that people cross, and also as well, like there's the stories of Kurt when his mother was trying to find like another boyfriend and
Yeah.
trying to get a relationship going. There was a couple that beat her and things like that and
Yeah.
cheated on her and all that stuff. And it was just, it's like we always talk about how important male figures are for young men, and he never really had
A good one.
a
I mean, he
good
was
honest.
okay. He seemed fine in the beginning and stuff, right? Like, it was when Kurt started growing up and having like too much energy. Like, he was too rambunctious for his dad to deal with. So that's when he started like saying shit to him. And his mom said in Montage of Heck, she's like, he always humiliated him. Like, he always made Kurt feel humiliated. And everybody says like that's the one thing that everybody says about him is like he hated being humiliated.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably because he has that association of like when his dad humiliated him as a child. It's crazy how that shit never leaves you. And he was at that age where like he was, he was writing music and he was working out whatever it was or just expressing it that way. And obviously he was really smart, so he recognized that early. And he always said he was really angry and stuff, but you'd never listen to him talk and think he was angry. He was like the most calm person. Their
yeah. I,
interviews
th-
from the 90s are the best.
yeah,
I've been watching
I
them.
really I really like that one with, I think it's Much Music,
Yeah.
the one where
They're
they're on like
outside.
the yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's always been one of my favorite ones because I think they end up talking to Kurt for the majority of it, and then Dave and Chris come in later on, or at the beginning, I can't remember. And he just seems really candid in that. I think he even talks about, like, people talk about, I think they ask him about, you know, his anger and things like that, like in the music, and he
Yeah.
says, he starts saying, you know, he has a partner now, and you know, I think he even says something about being in love, and he gets all kind of shy about it, and he says like he thinks that's got a lot to do with why he's like chilled out. But yeah, I think he was just generally quite like a quiet guy, and that's why people gravitate towards him, because there's that contrast of him being this quiet kind of unassuming character, and then when he gets on stage, it's just like complete opposite. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like maybe that was more of what he was holding back. We got to see on stage, you know, the anger and the frustration, and
Him like
I mean,
jumping into the drum set. He just like
he's
jumps
almost,
on top of Dave.
yeah. I think that's more like just like fun in it. They loved it.
Yeah.
Like I think,
But there was
'cause
like that performance, you know, the performance where he wore the lab coat and he came out in the wheelchair and then he collapsed and then he got up and then right near the end he goes to the camera, he spits in the camera, he goes to the other camera, he pulls his pants open and he like pulls the camera to look down his pants. And then there's like some weird white thing that's like on the stage and then he starts yanking on
yeah.
that. I don't know what that was.
I think
Weird
it's
prop or something?
No, I think it's something in case somebody falls off the stage or something.
Oh.
Talking of which, did you see like it was like what 2-3 years ago when Dave Grohl fell off the stage?
No.
His leg.
No.
And then you know what they did?
What?
He's on the floor, and they give him a microphone, so he's like with those festival stages, and it's like there's the stage, and then there's like another thing, and then
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
this huge drop, and then
Yeah.
there's the crowd. Like he fell off that. It's like it's got to be like 9-10 feet or something, and he falls off it because he's like running and he doesn't realize where he is. He falls off it, and then he's on the floor, and everyone's like, the gigs stop, and they give him a microphone, and you just hear Dave go, "I think I broke my leg." like really fucking loud over the PA system.
Dave Grohl is a personality champ, man. He just is the best. Like, there's so many times during interviews where Kurt's talking and he's just making faces. He's like just making silly faces at the camera. It's the best. Chris is really funny too. So when Kurt or Dave aren't talking, Chris is always just cracking jokes and making fun. Their interviews were so great like that because they really didn't take themselves seriously at all. They never acted like they were the best band in the world. Like, talking to them, if you were watching an interview of theirs for the first time, you would never get the sense that this is the most influential, currently great group of rock stars that is in front of anybody.
Yeah.
They're
Well, because
cool.
they came from a real like underground scene, and like they grew up going to see like Black Flag, you know, the Melvins and all this shit. So
Yeah.
it's they had certain ethics and standards and principles. Really they were really invested in them, and like they carried that through into their more professional part of their career.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite something to look up to, especially the way celebrities get so up their own asses nowadays.
Yeah, Courtney had
Like,
said something about how the punk rock scene is very much about credibility, and obviously Kurt really cared about that too. He always used to be like, we like it that people appreciate the music, and if they actually appreciate the music, they'll stick with us. It isn't about any of the other stuff, because they were asked about in that Much Music interview, like what the publicity was like for Nevermind. And he's like, yeah, we were just on like a few calls. We weren't really super involved with that. They kind of did their thing and they just consulted us, I guess. But that's not something that's our job. Like, for us, it's just about the music. And Kurt always emphasized how like he didn't care about anything but the music. Hey, can you explain your lyrics? And he's like, it's all in the music, man. It's all in the meat.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think it would it would tire out anybody who doesn't like speaking about themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's what it's what was instilled in them as young men, and it's hard to kind of get away from that, especially when you invest so much into it, and and think about it, like they probably looked up to so many guys who were doing that thing, doing that, had that attitude anyway, and just were like that naturally, and I don't think, I think in a lot of ways they didn't want to betray that because you know I don't know if you know about Daniel Johnston, but like Kurt wore a Daniel Johnston shirt, and like then everyone went and checked out Daniel Johnston, and he was like this really freaky kid. Like I'll tell you about him another time, but like he's mad. There's a great documentary called The Devil and Daniel Johnston.
He
Which
was
you should
another
watch.
musician, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, and he had some like mental issues, like really bad ones though. Like schizophrenia, and he kind of, you could always tell he didn't really know what was going on. He didn't. He just, he was so detached from reality, but just a great musician. He, this is how crazy he was, right? He had all these songs that were great, right? And instead of, so he would record the songs like onto a little cassette tape, and he would like hand draw the album covers and give them out to everyone, right? And instead of just like duplicating the tape, he would play all the songs again and re-record every song. So every album that everyone has is like slightly different.
Oh,
It,
wow.
it's just like it's crazy. And like he there was like some MTV show where he lived, and he just somehow scammed his way up onto the stage, played this song, and then like everyone was like, "Who the fuck is this kid?"
Yeah.
I think that's how Kate ended up finding out about him. But
Everybody talks about the hot crazy matrix. What about the talented and crazy matrix? Like the higher the talent, the crazier the person seems to be.
in a lot of cases, yeah, I would say, or just more eccentric. But oh, you're talking about like hot people being crazy. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I would
Yes.
say, yeah, but I think where you get the talented crazy is where they're not really good looking, or they're not that good looking, or they don't think they're good looking, and or they were like alienated by, in high school they were alienated or whatever, and and like because they're not seen as good looking or whatever, or people aren't attracted to them, they end up having to be talented because they need some talent to make themselves stand out,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
no one's interested in them just for their looks. So like a lot of good looking people who are crazy probably would end up being talented, but they get everything given to them just because they're good looking. They don't have to try hard, or
That's the story of
they
the world, man. The prettier you are, the less you have to work.
yeah, yeah. That's why I haven't worked a day in my life.
You're so cute. You know what's so funny? I laughed yesterday because remember that scene where Kurt was like, "Do girls do this when they think about rock stars?" Remember that? And Courtney's
Yeah,
like, "Girls don't do that." And he's like, "They don't?" Like
yeah,
his reaction to that was so cute. Oh my god, it was so
yeah,
funny because we were just talking about how Courtney was like, that was like a moment where she was like, it's legit. Girls like have all these schematics and all these other complicating things.
yeah.
We're way more complex than boys, and that was illustrated in the response that he gave her. They don't. He was like
Yeah.
so sad. It
Yeah.
was so
He's
cute.
and he's like kind of confused. I don't think he'd ever
Yeah.
thought about that. He just thought it was the same. Yeah,
But I think he
yeah,
was high too, so like it was so sincere the way he responded. Like his face went, huh? It was so
yeah.
cute. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
after the first time I watched Montage of Heck, this is like I'm still in the kind of nascent stages of getting into them. He I was like, there's no way Courtney could have done anything to Kurt, blah 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 blah. And then I watched Soaked in Bleach. Let's talk about Soaked in Bleach. And before I do, I wanted to ask you before I forget. In the video that American Spy Fox put out, what was it, yesterday, with the whole Epstein Courtney Love thing, right? He was making there was a comment from Courtney Love's dad about how Tom Grant was like a total fraud. Do you know anything about that? What is that? What? Why? What?
I think that comes from him interacting with him, and they're both two very strong-minded individuals. You know,
Yeah.
they don't want to be seen to be one-upped by each other, kind of thing. And I think there's been tension between them. But I know that um, American Spy Fox reached out to Tom Grant,
Oh, did he?
and they were meant to do like a stream together and all this stuff. And like, I think there was some kind of money involved. Like, Tom Grant wanted money, so like, American Spy Fox, like, he generated some money for his fans to like pay. Oh, that was it, to pay for flight tickets to come out and see him and do like it in person and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and like Tom Grant kind of like fucked him around and like ended up like, fucking him over a little bit. And I think that's where that comes from. But also as well, I think there's like little things like, the whole thing about how there was all these, Tom Grant likes to say there was all these copycat suicides, like worldwide. It was like this almost.
It
like
wasn't that many.
epidemic.
It was like really small number.
It was like a handful worldwide, which
Yeah.
percentage-wise is nothing comparative to like how many people actually listen to Nirvana and how many people, were big fans of Kurt. Like I don't think it was anything. And I think there's like one suicide letter that was quoted in the news, which was like, "Now I'm done and I can go home," which was a Kurt lyric
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that. Oh no, it was the Sentless Apprentice line, which was you can't fire me or something like that. Can't remember the line.
But the I'm coming home one was also used. Because there were a couple, right, with notes
Yeah,
that had Kurt lyrics.
yeah. So I think he's still a legit private investigator. He's still a legit guy, but I think there are some things about him which they just don't sit well.
Dude, all
with
these people have some weird things that just don't sit well, right? It should be as cut and dry as, can I have a conversation? Yes, here's the money, hop on a plane, let's talk. Like, what is this weird shit? Like, remember, what was her name? Rosemary, the lawyer? Like, Kurt and Courtney's lawyer?
Rosemary Carroll.
Yeah, who...
She was the entertainment lawyer.
Right. And then she is the one who found that paper in Courtney's backpack that had her practicing handwriting, and she's talking to Tom Grant about it in the recordings, and then as soon as she finds out he's recording the conversation, she's like, "Are you recording this? Ah, fuck." And then he stops recording it. Yeah, and I'm like, "But wait a minute. Why is that a problem? Because was she already tied up with Courtney with money or something?"
Well,
I guess so, right? Because she was her lawyer.
It's like, like if you speak to your doctor about something or you speak to a therapist about something, there's the confidentiality agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it's that. It's the same thing with a lawyer. Like there's certain things that there's, as a client to a lawyer, like especially when it's medical information or some kind of legal thing, like there's a certain privilege you get with certain information between you and the professional. So what she was doing there was technically illegal. And I think that, I don't know, I'm not a fucking lawyer, but
Yeah.
that information that so those recordings, I don't think they'd technically stand up in a court of law. Like,
Oh, because they weren't supposed to be done.
Yeah, like say she wasn't meant to be saying that she wasn't meant to be giving any information
right
like that to Tom Grant.
Because it was like antithetical to the interests of her client.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So I think technically, if we had a lawyer, we could find this out. But like technically, if Courtney ended up in court for this, that would be like thrown out in a second by her defense, especially if she had a half decent lawyer, which
that
she
fucking
will do.
Sucks though, because it just adds more of a layer to this fucking conspiracy, like to all the conspiracy theories about this case, right? Like there's so many weird things about this case. Like I didn't know that Callie and Hopper were not even questioned. Like somehow they just got away while they were at the house the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
Like
What
someone
case?
was there while he shot himself.
Well, yeah. I mean, we can get into like what we think. I mean, I don't think I think it's you've got junkies and you've got
Yeah.
guns. You
Yeah.
know, I think it's more of an accidental thing, and obviously the most like Occam's razor or whatever. Like, it's most likely that he probably did kill himself. Let's say this, and any other things, is yeah, we'll get into that. But yeah, what case do you hear about? Like all the true crime and shit I've like watched. I never hear about a case where somebody is in a house when someone's died, and the police don't even question them.
Yeah, that's it. So Tom Grant had also approached the chief of police of Seattle, who had been at the house. When everybody came to the house when they found out, like when his body was found, and then Tom Grant's like, "I have information for you," and he's like I'm not talking to you.
Yeah,
Well,
and
that
if you
seems fucking weird.
yeah, if you're a police chief or an investigator and you find out that a guy is outside saying he wants to talk to you, who was in the house the night before you found the body, or like 2 nights before, how can you not question that pit? Like, that's what I don't get. Like I was saying to you, like, what, night or so ago, like, Kurt has been failed by the state of Seattle over and over and over again as a child, you
Yeah.
know, through his adolescence, through his teenage years, early 20s, and then he was even failed in his death.
Yeah.
It's actually like, and look, I don't care if we found out the truth was that he killed himself.
It is what it
I'd be
is.
I'd be fine with that. Like I've got no investment in it being some crazy conspiracy,
Yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah blah.
yeah.
It's the fact that you want to you want some kind you want the process that should have been put in place to be followed through. Obviously, it's hard to do now. I think the shotgun has been through so many hands. You're not going to find any fucking fingerprints on that. You know,
But everything is weird because shortly after that whole thing happened, I think it was within 6 days, didn't Courtney have that garage torn down?
something like that. And I know that his body was cremated, and
Yeah,
somebody said,
without like so quickly everything happened where like typically you would wait. You wouldn't just like do all this shit and get rid of everything beforehand.
yeah.
Why did it
Well, I
happen so quickly? Why weren't all the photos developed from the greenhouse where like as soon as they got in they took pictures? They didn't develop them. They declared that it was a suicide before they had enough information to declare it was a suicide. And there's just weird physical aspects of the case where they were saying like the way that he shot the gun, the bullet should have landed to his left side, but it should have landed to his right side, but it was on his left side. Because the
yeah.
barrel would have released that cap on the other side of him, but it was like over
Yeah.
there.
Well, the only problem I have with that is that in the reenactment of that, they show the trajectory of the shell,
Yeah.
and it conveniently goes perfectly under his wrist. So he's like this with the gun, and it's like it
Oh,
perfectly
yeah, yeah, yeah.
comes out. And it's like, why couldn't that have just hit here and went that way? Like,
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I guess
that's
so.
that's the only thing I don't like about that. But I mean, there's just so much more damning evidence. I mean, she planted a story in the press that she got caught with drugs the day before his body was found.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that is an alibi. It's
The
she's
first thing she
constructing an
did,
alibi.
the first thing she did before, like when she hired Tom Grant, was she like had told the press some bullshit story too. She called the cops as Wendy O'Connor and reported that he was missing too, and she used the excuse that like, oh, they're not going to believe what I say, they just think I'm like some fucked up junkie, so I use Wendy O'Connor's name. But obviously it wasn't going to be mentioned in Montage of Heck because I think that was more like tributary than it was anything else, I think.
More about him as an artist than anything
Yeah,
else.
yeah. And I've never heard or seen anything from his mom talking about that at all. And that's probably because you were saying there's so much money tied up with Courtney now because she has control over his estate and like has the publishing rights to Nirvana and all this other shit that it's
Yeah.
like everybody has to fucking keep their mouth shut, like, and fall in line. She was paying
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, I think technically it's in Frances's name now because I think when she turned like 18 or 21 or something, she got some of it. I think it might be more to do with a financial thing than any legal um right to her dad's intellectual property. But I mean, I don't know about that. I haven't really looked into it. But yeah, I mean, everyone. I mean, Dylan Carlson
Oh, the
had
best
his
friend.
rent. Yeah, he had his rent paid for by Courtney for years. His drug habit funded by Courtney. Callie DeWitt and the girlfriend of Callie DeWitt. I can't remember her name
Jessica
right now.
Hopper.
Like Jessica Harper. They've all been under her wing since they were like, you
Young.
know, kids. Those two have been at Dylan Carlson, hasn't, but those two have been under her wing. Everyone is. I mean, the guy who did I think it was the guy who did the autopsy. I could be wrong about this, but the guy who did the autopsy was a friend of Courtney, one of Courtney Love's ex-husbands. And after the autopsy, he moved from Seattle to Florida and basically started a whole second life. And he died in a skydiving accident.
Yikes.
It's like, what the fuck? Everyone just starts dying. Like Christina
Kirsten Pfaff.
Pfaff, yeah, like she dies of an overdose.
But she was the bassist of Hole, wasn't she? And then
Yeah.
Courtney was not particularly happy with the fact that Kirsten Pfaff was getting more recognition than her in the press and magazines and stuff because she was like being recognized as a great bassist and singer.
And Kurt apparently liked her as well.
A lot.
Yeah, which makes sense because I mean she was like classically trained, and I think Kurt was starting to mature as a musician and wanted to do things that were more, intricate and more, musically inclined, for lack of a better term. Like he wanted to do things that weren't just like all primal.
He said he
you
wanted
know,
to do like a calm acoustic album.
like
There's
Johnny
that
Cash.
yeah, he said that was that interview at the beach. He's like, I'd really like to just like sit and sing with an acoustic guitar and record an
Yeah.
album instead of having this like heavy gunka
Well,
gunka
Gunka Gunka,
gunka gunka.
Well, if you think about how good the Unplugged album was,
That was a
and
live
even, like,
performance, right? The last one he did.
well, it was technically the last like, big production they did, but like I think the last gig they played was in like somewhere in Europe, on the In Utero tour. But yeah, you think about how good that album is, and like, I think the guy's name was like Larry Goldstein or something, who played cello on that live performance. Like, he was obvious, and who played cello, who was classically trained in. Faf was classically trained in cello. I mean, he was obviously getting into people that were like, and then the Meat Puppet songs that they covered on that live performance were all way more intricate. Like, I mean, I learned one of the songs, can't remember the name of it right now, but like that, just the guitar riff in it alone is way more complicated than anything Nirvana ever did. I think he was starting to think of branching out more musically,
Yeah.
which is sad because I mean, you need to watch Rick Beato's stuff on Kurt Cobain's Melodic Genius. Like,
Rick Beato is so cool, by the way. Just need to take a moment
yeah.
to say that. He is such a fucking cool dude.
Gray Fox.
Yeah, you definitely. I will definitely check that out just because I'm in that rabbit hole now. Like my whole world is Kurt Cobain, and I just find him so interesting. The whole story is really intriguing. I was telling you the other day, like, this is the exciting thing about this is there's so many loose ends. This is what people must feel like when they watch TV shows and it's the end of a season and they've left you at a cliffhanger. This is like a permanent cliffhanger. You know what I mean? Like, the investigation was closed when all the ends were not tied. There's so many weird things. Like, again, the fact that they didn't develop all the pictures from his suicide, not saying, or whatever it was, his death. It's not that I would particularly want to see them because there is that really famous picture where you see his leg, like it's from the back, and you see his leg, and
Yeah.
you see like his box of drugs and everything, and it's just, man, that shit is so eerie. It's so horrifying. You don't need to post that shit into the public, but it is very weird that as a police department, you wouldn't develop all the photos and you wouldn't examine everything more closely before you deem the case closed. Like, why the fuck would you just do that?
They just decided it was a suicide, like, and I mean the guy, what's his name? The guy who did like the autopsy and the investigation on like Martin Luther King, Marilyn Monroe,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the Kennedys, like this guy who's done high profile deaths over and over again has said that the way this investigation was carried out was at best amateurish. You know what I mean? And it's like this guy who's basically been investigating celebrity deaths for a living, and is obviously, I mean, what is he, like in his 70s or something now? Like he's obviously a knowledgeable guy in this field of you know
Autopsies,
whatever,
post death, whatever. He was explaining he was explaining
criminology or whatever.
criminology, sure.
Yeah, yeah. But this guy, knowledgeable, has experience. If he's saying something's wrong about this, like, I mean, who else you need? Like, yeah, you're gonna, if you want to say like, oh, this should be left to the realms of crazy conspiracy theorists. Like, I think you're kind of cutting yourself short on that. Because I mean, look, I was really skeptical for the longest time, and
I
then
wasn't. I want to, just for the record, say that I was totally wrong. You know what I mean? Now where I am is I don't know. I was like going by a feeling, right? Because I'm like, I couldn't imagine ever just plotting this fucking crazy death against my boyfriend or husband who I love so much. Yeah, but I'm not Courtney Love, and I'm not a fucking fame hungry woman. I'm not like chasing these rock stars and being their girlfriend, and I'm also not, you just don't know. When you have
well,
connections to people, and when you have money, and when you have so much of a pull, it, it's very difficult to say you wouldn't be this person or that, because you don't actually know their connections or anything, right? Like, it's a fucking crazy story.
it's like the whole thing of like, I wouldn't be a Nazi in World War II. Like, how do you
Yeah.
know?
How do you
You
know?
know, you never know what. And like I was saying to you a while ago, like she was the she was like the apex hypergamous
Yeah.
female.
Yeah.
She Every step of her life she was. I mean, she used her female advantage to gain a lot of things in life, and I am not against that. If that's what you
No,
want
no,
to do as
no.
a woman,
Yeah. And her
that's
dad
fine.
said it too. He said it to American Spy. He's like, you must not know Courtney. She's a hustler. If her
Mm.
number is somewhere, it's because she put it there. So that was
Oh
the
yeah,
that was a really interesting comment that he made, because they were talking about Epstein having her phone number in his address book. And she's like,
yeah.
fuck him. He can go to the deepest parts of Avicii. And I'm like, come on, girl. Why does he have your number? Who gave him your number?
And there's a video of her in like 2006 or something at some movie awards, and she's basically outing what's his name, the big fat guy who went down first before
Weinstein?
Epstein. Weinstein, yeah. She basically outing Weinstein live, like on TV. Like, she knew this shit. She was obviously in that circle. She knew
Yeah.
what was going on, and whether or not she was involved in it, that's another question. But she was definitely involved with these people uh, to some extent. Like, Prince Andrew does not just turn up at your house.
Yeah, that was a really weird story, too.
Yeah, I see. This is shit that I never knew, and it's crazy that all this stuff's coming out like as we were discussing it. Like,
And it's not that strange considering she blew up in the UK. She didn't blow up in the States as much as she blew up in the UK.
well, I think because she spent a lot of time in Europe, she basically she took her it was like a trust fund from her grandparents and like traveled around Europe and
Yeah.
like she would like scam because she would only get a certain amount of money through the through whatever she was getting the money from this kind of inheritance thing, and she would like scam them all the time to get more money out of them. She would like strip to get around Europe.
Yeah, yeah.
She was like a groupie with all types of bands. So I think she'd laid the groundwork in terms of connections for like years before Kurt was even like
In the
a
picture.
household name. Before Kurt had even like finished recording Bleach, she had already set up so many connections in the industry and so many connections all around Europe and the UK and America. Like she was hustling long before Kurt, and
Yeah.
also like she had to, you know what I mean? Kurt was like, yeah, he didn't have a place to live a lot of times, and he was living with friends and living with friends' parents. Like he lived with that English teacher for a long time, and he was just kicking rocks in Aberdeen for like years while she was living in like group homes and trying to get the fuck out of there. And I mean, more power to her. It's just when it gets to the point where you're manipulating people with drugs and you're like basically grooming.
Oh, she's fucking good at what she does, that's for sure. She got
She's highly-
exactly what she wanted out of it. Like remember that Vanity Fair article that I shared with you yesterday? I read it for the first time, and it talks about her like general attitude and blah blah blah. And I think that article in particular really pissed Kurt off. It was September 1st, 1992, Vanity Fair, and it pissed him off because it was talking about how she was taking heroin into her pregnancy. I don't know why people were so mad, because in the montage of Hex, she actually says she took heroin while she was pregnant. So it's kind of weird that
Well,
Kurt was kind of pissed about it. I guess he just didn't want that out there.
yeah, it's like it's personal shit. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, he
And
didn't like that.
it's like there's thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of women doing drugs while they're pregnant.
Yeah,
We don't need to know about all them, do we? That's to do with child services, doctors,
yeah,
like lawyers. Like that's what it's to do with. It's just because you wrote some fucking songs that everyone likes doesn't mean everyone gets to pry
true
into your fucking
story.
personal life. You know what I mean? So I can understand the anger,
Yeah, oh
but
yeah,
at the same time, it's like it comes with the territory. You know what I mean? You shouldn't
yeah.
be. You need to be more careful. And I think Courtney kind of, she planted stories in the press many times, and I think she just let that stuff just go out because she knew it would just get, any press is good,
Yeah,
any publicity is
yeah,
good.
exactly. She didn't fucking care because she just wanted to be out there. She just
Yeah,
wanted to be in the press. She from the very beginning admits like fame and influence is what I want, and fame and influence is what I'm going to get, and whatever the means is, they are what they are,
by
you
any
know?
means necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, and she did great. I mean, I was looking at pictures in that Vanity Fair article, and it's crazy to see her from like early hole to like now. She was just like junky, kind of like messy, fucking crazy looking chick, and now she's like she's always been beautiful, but she's just like now she's very like designer, very prim and proper, very nicely kept. It's cool to see the evolution of a person like that, but also like look at all the fucking costs that she took on to get there.
Yeah. I mean, she's obviously very cunning and very intelligent,
Super
but
intelligent. She's
yeah,
fucking nuts and shit, but man, that woman's so brilliant. And her voice, I really like that album. Pretty on the inside. I'm
yeah. I
excited
like.
to listen to Live Through It, but it's kind of weird because it came out a week after Kurt died, which
Yeah.
was like,
Well, lived through this, but yeah, the the thing. So the first album, you're right, is good, and I like that more because I can because look, I think she's a great musician. She's got a great voice. She's. I've seen I've seen videos of her play live, and she kills it. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But well, when she was younger, I think when she's got a bit older, it's got a bit sketchier, and I think sometimes she doesn't. I think there's some videos I've seen, it doesn't look like she's actually playing guitar. But anyway, that's a side story. Um, you know, she's older. That shit happens.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
there's I think some of the songs on her later albums, I think Kurt wrote, and I think Billy Corgan wrote.
But
I
she
think there's
basically
one or two.
responded to any allegations of Kurt helping her write her music as like, fuck you. No, he fucking didn't. Nobody helped me write my shit. I write my own shit.
Yeah, I think she writes the majority of her shit. But the thing is, if you're around musicians like that,
Yeah, you're just
who
going to.
who who like you, they might give you a chorus, or they might give you a verse, or
Yeah,
they might
yeah.
give you some chords to work off. Like, that's just gonna happen for sure. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, like, I'm sure, like, I make music purely on my own, but like, if I was making music with people, I'm sure people would be like, I don't really want to use that. You can have them call, and I'm sure I would be like, you know what? I don't really want, like, I write stuff all the time. There's plenty of shit that I probably give away to people who I like or friends, because it's like, if I'm not going to use it and somebody else can do something really cool with it, it's more in their style or
Yeah,
whatever, like, or
yeah.
like that shit happens.
Yeah, yeah, of
Um,
course.
I mean, are we gonna chastise, Paul McCartney because he, you know, used some stuff that Lennon wrote, or are we gonna chastise Lennon because he helped Paul write songs and vice versa? Like, musicians help each other and get creative with each other. That's how it works.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't I don't see a problem with that. But for her to be like, no, I write everything myself, like I've never had any help, like I think that's a bit silly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta imagine, like, when her and Kurt were just on their fucking heroin bitches, they probably had some great fucking times together where they would just, like, sit and write shit. Even when they weren't high. You know what I mean? Like, they
Oh
were
yeah.
just so. I mean, you have one genius and then another genius. As much as you like or dislike either of them, they were both fucking really smart. She was highly intelligent, he was highly intelligent. And, like, imagine putting those two brains together. It's like a
Yeah. Yeah.
singularity.
And you get Francis Cobain. But like,
Yeah.
um yeah, I sent you that clip from Hit So Hard, which is a documentary about the drummer from Hole, and also kind of about Courtney. I think everything ends up becoming about Courtney.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
she, there's a clip in that of Kurt and Courtney like just like pissing about writing a song called "Stinking of You," and
Stinking
like
of
yeah,
you.
like can you imagine like that shit would happen like that would have happened like all the time.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh, yeah.
But like, do you know the story about Heart Shaped Box?
Mm-mm.
So, she asked him to write her a riff, and this is Courtney's words, right? She asked him to write a riff, right? And he was like, "I don't really want to, blah blah blah." And then she was like, "No, do it. Like it'll be fun or whatever." And he went into that like little shoebox room he had in that big mansion they had in Seattle,
Yeah.
and in like 20 minutes or something, he came out with the whole heart shaped box song, and she was
Really?
like, pissed off. She's like, "Fuck you," like because he could just do that, he could just like go, "Oh, I'll go write a song," and like
He's
just come up
like,
with heart-shaped box.
he's like, I came up with all, like, he went to a recording before he got signed on with Sub Pop, and he was talking about how he wrote all the lyrics on the drive there. He's like, I'm really fucking lazy. Like, I'll, like, write my lyrics on the drive there and then just fucking perform. And, like, dude, the guy just had a talent. Like, he just had something he could tap
Yeah,
into, and it just fucking worked. Like, he just made it work.
yeah,
God, I
because
wish I had that kind of brain, man.
he just did it all the time. I
Yeah.
think I think he had that brain, but you do it over and over again, you're gonna be able to come up with some good stuff. I have, I'm not a fucking genius, but like, I do it all the time, and I have hundreds of songs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It just happens, and if you write that many things, there's gonna be some in there that's good.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then if you have that like genius brain like he did, like then
Mm-hmm.
a lot of them are gonna be good, and then the ones that are really good, there may only be like a handful, but they're gonna be really, really, really fucking good.
Mm-hmm.
And you're talking about Dumb, because there's an early recording from like 80 something if he's like on a radio um station,
Yeah,
and he's
yeah, yeah.
he's talking to the guy about how he was like driving with his foot, and he's like writing lyrics.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
like Kurt Cobain wrote "Dumb," which is one of the best songs on In Utero. He
Yeah.
wrote that while driving his car with a foot. It's like what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, he's
Ridiculous.
something else.
But even in that, sorry, one last thing.
Yeah.
Even in that in that radio interview, like before he plays Dumb, he even says that he ripped off the chords. Before he plays the song, he says it's a rip off. So even Kurt did that, you know what I mean? I don't know what song he ripped it off from, but
But he said this
yeah.
before, like, we're all just repeating the same shit over and over again, you know, whether it's musically or whatever. I mean, like, there's just some things he's written that are just, I'm like, this is not recycled, bro. Like that line from what was the one, the tar pit?
Top It Trap. Yeah.
Yeah, tar pit trap. Fuck, that's a good lyric.
Yeah.
So going back to Soaked in Bleach, fuck, where did I want to start? I was going to talk to you about something. Now I forgot because we got carried away. There's just so much to talk about. There's so much fun stuff. Oh, yeah, I was going to ask you, you know, the animated parts when he's telling the story about how he goes to that retard girl's house to fuck her because he's like, I'm not leaving this world without getting laid or whatever. Is that his voice telling the story? Is that someone who sounds like him?
No, that's Kurt, yeah.
So when did he record that? Like, did he just record stories and stuff, or was that an interview, or?
No, so Montage of Heck was a tape that he made. You know, like all the weird soundscape stuff, like people talking on TV and stuff in Montage of Heck. That's all Kurt's Montage of Heck tape. That's like what he made with a little
Oh,
tape recorder. You know, like all the animated things where he's like, "That's so groovy." He's
yeah,
like, oh,
yeah,
he's like, why is that so groovy? And then it like cuts into something else,
yeah, yeah.
and then there's all like the self-help tape stuff on it and all that stuff. Like that's him just making a montage of
Oh my
shit that he
God,
found.
that's even cooler. See, I didn't know that. I'm
Yeah.
glad I
Well,
asked.
I didn't know that till like I think the second time I watched the documentary, but I knew that was him talking because I'd heard that before.
Yeah.
Um, and the he would record himself read. I mean, there's an 8 minute recording of him reading out some poetry, and he used to call himself Baby Jerkins. I think it was
Mm.
called Baby Jerkins. It was like his poetry name or whatever. And it's just like, and he's like reading out his poetry, and he's like giggling to himself, like, "What the fuck was I thinking when I was writing this?"
It is
I'll
always so
send you the
weird
link.
reading your own shit afterwards, right? You're like, this is so weird. Like, why was I even thinking this? Why this string of words? Why this feeling? Because that's just what it was in the minute. But like, you look at it after and at closer examination, you're like, all right, the fuck.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's an interview with Bob Dylan where he's talking about like he doesn't know who that person was who wrote those songs, you know, from his early career.
Hmm.
And I think that's true for like anyone who creates anything. Like you look back at it, even if you look back at like something you did in school, you know, you're like, who the fuck is this person? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it
And I
feels like
mean,
you have no connection to it because you're so different now when you're looking at it through your eyes now. Because you can't put yourself in the place that you were when you did it at the time.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like that album I recorded. I mean, I don't think I could write songs like that ever again.
Yeah.
Like you know, there's a lot of things I don't like about it. Because I've heard it so many times. I just hear all the bad things in it. But I really do love that album, and I don't think I could ever write songs like that again. It's strange. You really do. It's it's almost like a song is like a sonic photograph of your psychological state at that moment,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like you can look back at a photograph, but you're never going to be able to recreate that moment.
No,
Those
no,
people may
no.
not be in your life anymore. You know, if you take a photo with friends, like it's the same with songs.
Yeah. It's the same with anything you write. You know what I mean? Like, you're in a moment, you're writing where you are now, but when you look at it later, there's no way you're in that. And it's, even though you're reading your words back, you can't induce that psychological state again, right? Because it's a matter of neuronal configurations. Your neurons are not configured in the way that they were in that moment that they are now. Fucking weird shit. But it was
Oh yeah.
you, you know? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the strangest. I think that's why I got so fascinated with it, and that's why I get so fascinated with people like Kurt who do it on this like elite level, and it's really inspiring to see. And I think that's why you get films like Soaked in Bleach. It's why you get people who didn't want, like, even though it's a man's life and his kid's still alive, and she probably has to hear, like, I think she gets like comments on her Instagram like your mom killed your dad and all this like horrible fucked up shit. Like, that's got to be horrible, and like I would never want to cause somebody pain in that way. it's
Yeah.
it's not nice. But this it's like when bad things come from a good place, like people love Kurt that much and they were that inspired by him, or just you felt like a big brother or something singing to them or whatever it is. And that's where this all comes from, because people didn't want to accept that he was gone, so they were like, well, something's got to have gone wrong here. And I think just in this case there are some things that are fishy for sure.
There's so many things that are fishy, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I think.
for me,
Go on.
number one, it's always going to be the fact that there were people who managed to slither away that didn't get questioned. There were weird things that were added, like, oh, he barricaded himself inside. But the way that the stool was positioned would suggest that he did not barricade himself inside. Like, there's just so many weird things. And, like, he was so happy because he had had Francis, and he just wanted to make sure, like, there were parts in his diary or in his journals where he's talking about, like, it's the greatest responsibility that he now has a child, and he has to pretty much renegotiate his relationship with the rock world, and like how popular he is and famous he is, and like his career in general, because now he has this baby that he needs to take care of, and he loved her. He's
Oh
always like,
yeah.
I love my child. Like, this has entirely changed my life. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
that's one aspect of it. And then there's one thing that popped into my head and now it's gone. God, I hate when my brain does that. It's so fucking annoying.
You're talking about why he was happy, Francis barricading himself in the.
Oh, so the Rome incident that happened a month before he killed himself, that where like the doctor who took care of him while he was in Rome did a press conference in which he stated he did not take 60 plus Rohypnol. This was an accident. But then Courtney goes to the press and she's like, I can't believe he had this premonition that I was thinking of cheating on him. So he got so upset that he fucking took Rohypnol. And I was like, fuck. Like, that's what she said in Montage of Heck. And I was like, this is really greasy because, the doctor fucking said that this was purely an accident. And it was determined that it was an accident. And then she comes out and she's just like, oh, he's all upset that he thought that I cheated on him. And it was a good point that
She
Americans. Go ahead. Sorry.
she was literally saying like he did it because I thought about cheating on him and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like wait a minute, you were practically begging him to stay with you. Like, I don't think that's a true story.
Yeah, he
I don't
wanted a
think you even.
divorce.
Yeah, you were practically begging him to stay with you, and like she literally says 60 Rohypnol, I think, in Montage of Heck. I could be wrong about that,
No,
but I
she
think
said 67. He took
yeah.
67 Rohypnol to try and kill himself. And he did not take that many.
No.
The
I mean,
doctor said he did not take that many.
the man who probably pumped his stomach, to get the shit out or whatever they
The
did,
physician is probably going to know better.
who has no investment. You think this guy's a fucking Nirvana fan? The guy was like in his
Exactly.
40s, one at the time. Like, yeah, it's there's so many things. I mean, everyone always points to the heroin in the system. Now, I don't know about dosages and all the rest of it, but I do know that the one doctor that is being cited to say that you can take that much stuff, that much heroin, and operate a gun and do things. The test that he cites was a test on methadone, and it was taken orally, not
Yeah,
intravenous.
not intravenously. Mainlining is way different than fucking orally ingesting something, which takes way longer to digest and get into your bloodstream. So that was another weird thing, right? It's like, Why is he taking 3 times the dose? I don't. It's weird to think that. Because as soon as it hits you, you just get kind of like, meh. And like he also had said, the autopsy professional guy who did the Kennedys and whatever, he's like, we have never known a case that correlates with anybody who does heroin and committing suicide. We've never seen this before, ever.
Well, no one's ever took that. No one's ever took a
That
lethal
much.
dose. No one's ever took a lethal dose of heroin to kill themselves and then killed themselves by another method.
Right.
What's the point? It's like, why would you do an overdose and then like cut your wrists or something? Like, there's, that's gonna kill you, so why would you do that? Like, yeah, I think that's a good point. And then also the fact that, I mean, when Rosemary Carroll talked about
That note?
the hand
The handwriting
handwriting,
practicing?
I mean, come on. And like, there was also a note in her bag that said like, you had like a list of things to do, like get arrested. That was like the first one on the list was like get arrested. And then it's got this thing, and it's like, I mean, like, do you want to know what I think actually happened? I think Callie DeWitt was doing like, right, there's two things I think. I think either there was something that happened with a drug dealer that went wrong, and Kurt got like attacked or something, hit his head, and
Yeah, there was like an injury on his head that was like opposite the shot where the shotgun or where the bullet went through, right?
I don't know about that, but my thinking is if you clock someone over the head or something in a rage or whatever the fuck, what's the best way to get rid of that? Like, is to fucking get rid of the wound by cutting it off or shooting it off or whatever the fuck. I think maybe something like that could have happened. But what I'm thinking the last couple of days since I've been watching this stuff is I think Callie DeWitt helped him shoot up and gave him too much. And Kurt was like, what, like probably already stoned, like what the fuck, why are you putting that much stuff in my system kind of thing. There was like a struggle or whatever, and then they were going to make it look like, I think the suicide note was going to be written like beforehand, and they were going to make it look like he overdosed and just leave that there. But I think something went wrong in trying to do that, and then they made it look like a shotgun suicide. That's what I think might have happened. I think Callie DeWitt's got something to do with
Yeah,
it.
I think Callie definitely has something to do with it. Again, they were at the fucking house.
Yeah.
And it's so weird how, suddenly they fleed away. Nobody asked a question. The last time that Kurt was seen was April 2nd, 1984. And he had given his phone number. Was it Michael Stipe? Who was it that he had seen at that
it
restaurant?
It was the photographer. I
Right.
can't remember his name right now, but yeah, he took all the early photos of like the grunge scene in
Right.
Seattle.
So he had said, he's like, Kurt didn't look too happy. He didn't look too good. But he gave me his phone number and said, hey, we should like talk sometime or whatever the fuck it was. And it's like, it does raise the question, like, why on earth would you give somebody your phone number and say we should hook up or hang out if you're planning to kill yourself?
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
you could have done it anyway to not raise suspicions in people's heads.
keep up appearances, and also it's like maybe in that moment he did want to do that, and then one night he was like, you know what, fuck this, I just can't be arsed anymore. It's like we talked about this on the last episode, like, I think that kind of decision is a momentary thing.
Yeah.
And you never know, like, it's tough, man. I mean, I think if something fishy did go down, I think it's something like I said there. It's some kind of struggle, some kind of like, but Occam's razor probably did. Most likely thing is he probably did kill himself, because I think it's a momentary thing. Very stressful. He every time he tried to get out of whatever it was, he was either pulled in by legal stuff to play festivals. There was always money on the table that like people wanted to get, and the only way getting it was for him to carry on. He wanted a break. He wasn't allowed to take a break. The guy toured for like the last like year or two with like
Thank you. I think my
with
shipment
some.
just came with all my new glasses.
Ooh, you should get them for the end of the stream. Go through them.
Okay.
But yeah, like I think I can't remember. Was it bronchitis or something he had? He had some kind of lung issue. Like imagine having to tour around
He was
the
so ill
world.
for so long. You know what I mean? Like, he
Yeah.
had mentioned several times that he had this stomach issue, and he has scoliosis. That was the other thing that wasn't about his son. Never is that mentioned anywhere else, but he mentions it there. And he's like, I have scoliosis. My back was always in so much fucking pain. And then the stomach thing happened, and the stomach pain was so much that it negated the back pain. Plus I was wearing my guitar, and the guitar strap and the weight of the guitar was making it that much worse. So he's like, I started medicating with heroin, which is, when your fucking back hurts, like nothing is worse than when your back hurts because it affects every other thing, like every other movement. And look how he moved. Just thrashing and fucking, he had like just that additional weight putting extra pressure on his vertebrae. It was not
And
good. So he was
yeah.
under constant stress.
Well, I think it curved to the right, and
Yeah.
he was a left-handed guitar player, so his strap would have been on his right shoulder, so that weight would have been pulling down even more.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I remember either reading about that or it was when I watched about his son. Um, but I mean, do you remember when you were trying to record vocals when you were sick and how tough it was, and how much worse? I mean, imagine having to tour and play like almost every night or
I
every
couldn't.
weekend with like bronchitis or whatever he had, some kind of lung issue.
He was
Imagine.
super ill. Like he was always coughing.
Oh
He was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
coughing and he was sick and like when you're so fucking tired because your body's exhausted if it's trying to heal from bronchitis or any illness, and then you're going out there and you have to push yourself to create this energy that's very difficult to create because it's finite, and your body is already draining you of this energy just to fucking survive. And then there's people out there too, like, when you're in a crowd, I imagine it's also draining, the fact that they have so much energy at a performance. You have to match that energy. And it was always there. He was a fucking superstar. He did it. But you could see him when he was leaving stage. He's just like coughing and he just looked fucking tired, man. Party on, Wayne.
Yeah. I think yeah, you're exactly right. I couldn't imagine having to do that every night, and just think about like jet lag, how much that takes out of you. He just had a kid, like, and then all the stress with Courtney and like stress from management and the
Yeah.
record label and everything. Like, God, like, there's no wonder like he just wished that he could have just been like some little band that played like clubs and there was no pressure, but he could still make a living. I mean, yeah, like I think if Kurt was around nowadays, he would flourish. You know what I mean? He really would flourish because like there is no break in the mainstream anymore, in my opinion. I think I've told you about it before. I think the way we had all the subcultures and everything for so long, every decade there was some kind of subculture that came along, whether it was the mods or the rockers or it was like metal and then, Britpop. There's all this stuff that's happened and it became part of the mainstream or got pretty close. Like nowadays it's like everyone just has their own little tribe and what they're into, and you can kind of go and listen to this stuff and go and listen to this stuff, and then it's like for all that time it was like everyone was making this music industry cake. They were like putting the eggs in, they were like putting the flour in, they were like batting it up, and then now it's being baked and it's a cake now. And the top of the icing is like your Beyonce's and your Kanye West and shit, and you're never gonna get near them. Like you just need to do what you need to recognize where you are and you might be able to move up and down, the lower parts of the industry, but I mean, like Mac DeMarco, right? Mac DeMarco, I think, is technically probably like a millionaire at this point, or he's made that much money. He may not be a millionaire, but he's probably made around that much revenue. Lives comfortably. He plays like, Jimmy Fallon, and not like I asked you about him, and like he's from your country, and like you didn't even know about him. Like it's crazy how much money and how much of a career you have, and people don't even know your name. Like, I think Kurt would have flourished in that environment if he was just like a Mac DeMarco or something. Like everyone loved him for who he was, but not everyone knew
And
who
he
he
was like a
was.
really simple dude. Like he didn't want a lavish lifestyle. He wanted like a very simple, basic life where he could live comfortably, with based on his own needs. Like he didn't want that fucking house that Courtney bought, that like big mansion that they had by Washington Lake there. He didn't want that shit. He
Yeah,
fucking said he hated it there. And like they were showing comparisons of like the cabins that they wanted. Like Kurt wanted this kind of like broken down, kind of shack looking place, and then you see Courtney's like lavish cabin in the woods, and it's just like big, beautiful. Like what you would expect like a rich, famous person to want as like a place to get away and hide. You know what I mean? Like he did not care for that shit. She wanted a Volvo. He said, "Fuck you. Give me my beaters and shit." Oh, by the way, here's another weird thing. So remember how the tires were slashed of that Dodge Dart that they had at the house? That
yeah,
vehicle ended up in front of Chris Novoselic's house.
yeah.
For
I remember.
sale, by the way.
It's so weird.
Like
Who the
how
fuck did that?
how did that happen? And like I've never seen anything with Chris Novoselic talking about that either. Like that was just like, oh, all of a sudden it's there. But that's it. Like we know nothing more about that. I thought the tires were slashed. What's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, I think did Courtney slash them or something in a rage or something
Yeah,
in an
because she didn't
argument.
want him to leave.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
She
Yeah,
wanted to
exactly.
like she wanted to disable him from being mobile and getting away because he would leave and he would go meet the drug dealer for drugs. And she didn't want
Mm.
him to anymore. And it's weird, like in Montage of Heck, they show that footage of him when Frances is getting her first haircut and he's like nodding off.
So bad. Yeah,
Right? Like he actually high then? Or
I
was he
think he.
tired?
I don't know because he says he's tired. He's like, I'm not
Yeah.
on drugs. I'm tired, and it's like, like the stuff we were just talking about, how sick he was and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
maybe that's just maybe that's the state he was in. You know, after a tour had finished, and obviously if
Yeah.
he'd been doing heroin, that's gonna take its toll on you as well. I mean, it could be, or maybe he could have been on some prescription medication. He could have been on some medication for his bronchitis or whatever the hell he had. We just don't know. But I mean, that does look like, from what I've seen, when someone does shoot up, like
They nod off
they
like
do
that.
it. They're nodding off. They're very, it's almost like they're drunk. It's like, blah, blah, like they're not really speaking properly. So, you know, he was a
That's how they
junkie.
portrayed
So
him in Last Days. Like he was
yeah,
just fucked up those last days, like in that movie. Obviously, we don't know what the hell those last 4 days before he killed himself were like, but he was allegedly missing. And in the movie, they show whoever it is playing Kurt, like just going and hiding out in the forest and stuff and being all fucked up, just muttering to himself all the time, nodding off. I don't
Michael Pitt.
know. I wonder, I really wonder what it was like those 4 days where he's missing and nobody saw him. Just seems so
Well,
weird.
well, I mean, Callie DeWitt and his girlfriend, you know her name.
Oh,
What's her
they
name?
talked. He had gone into their bedroom on like the morning of the what was it? The morning of like the third or the fourth or something, and he
When
like
he got home.
right, and that was when he escaped from rehab.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right,
He like
like
he came into their room and he sang like Little Skinhead Girl or something, some song to her, and like woke her up, and like they claimed that like they thought it was a dream or something, like they didn't
interesting
really
because
know.
I think DeWitt at one point told somebody, it was either Courtney or somebody, that like he clearly remembers talking to Kurt.
Yeah.
And fucking so weird how Dylan does not even mention to Tom Grant that there's a fucking greenhouse. And like that night, that rainy night where they both drove there together, like it was so dark they couldn't even see it, so they didn't even think to look.
Yeah, some other investigator or some other private investigator or whatever in that film, like he went there on a dark night and checked it out, and he did say like it's practically like impossible to see.
Yeah.
Especially with that big beam and light on it. I mean, one of my mates used to live in like quite a wealthy like gated community, and like those big security lights they have, like outside garages and stuff, like it's hard to fucking see the rest of the house because that's what it's meant to do. It's meant to like, you know, it's meant to do that. The security lights, you know, and also that property, you can practically walk onto it from like the
Yeah.
main road and stuff. Like it, you know, and that's why he had guns and stuff because he was
Which is
worried about
why he
them.
got a shotgun with Dylan, because after that domestic dispute that he had at his home, he got all his guns confiscated. And later you find out that he was hiding in a closet away from Courtney because they were having some argument and he just didn't want to fucking deal with it. And then the cops came and then they took his guns. And then Dylan got him a shotgun and it was registered under Dylan's name because people would walk up on the fucking property all the time and he wanted it to protect himself because who the fuck knows who's walking onto your fucking property,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
And then that, like, I think Kurt was like kind of like a fan of guns.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like, you know, he came from like a hillbilly kind of area of you know, Aberdeen was
Aberdeen,
kind of like,
yeah.
it was kind of like hillbilly. You know, he grew up around that, like a lot of American kids do. And I mean, there's that picture where he's got some kind of rifle and he's got it in his mouth.
Yeah, with
And
Chris and Dave with him.
and they're kind of laughing, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Kurt's pulling like a serious face. It's obviously a joke. I mean,
Yeah.
they put out a song called "I Hate Myself and Want to Die." It was an intensely satirical joke. Like that's what they were like. It was dark humor, and like, you know, I think Courtney actually. I could be wrong about this, but I think Courtney gave that picture to the press, and she cropped out
Yeah, she did.
Dave and Chris laughing. So it's just I keep seeing things where she's clearly orchestrating a lot of things, and I don't know if it's that Callie DeWitt found Kurt overdosed and he freaked out, you know, and he fucked up the crime scene, so it made it look suspicious when it shouldn't have been. And he's called Courtney in a panic and went like, I found I found Kurt, he's dead, you know, and I like, it looks like I'm involved now, whatever, you know, I fucked the shit up, you know, some stupid junkie kid.
So Courtney calls this private investigator to find Kurt. He's talking about going to Seattle and putting surveillance on the house. She refuses several times and says, "No, we don't need surveillance at the house. Just forget it. If he's there, Callie will let me know." The last 2 days, she's not even directly talking to Tom anymore. She's directly talking to Dylan, and Dylan is funneling messages to Tom. The day before, or the day his body is found, for some reason, Courtney is MIA. You cannot find her. Tom Grant can't reach her. And all of a sudden, there's a security company or this electrician who's coming to install security cameras on the fucking property and finds his body.
Yeah. Well, if you don't need surveillance, why are you getting security cameras? Yeah,
Right? Like,
that's
it's
what
so
really pisses me
hard.
off.
It's so hard to like, it's so hard to not jump to the conclusion that it was her. Like, she did it. But at the same time, like, I don't want to pick either side. I don't know. And until
Yeah, I don't.
until they reopen the case or examine the evidence that they do have that they neglected to pay attention to in the beginning, fucking 20 something years ago or whatever it was, you know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to say yes or no either way.
Yeah,
But
is,
it also
yeah.
seems it's a little sus because she was like she admitted it. She was fame hungry. She wanted influence. That was the reason Kurt liked her too, because there were just aspects of the industry that he did not give a fuck about, that Courtney had to like push him on or give him kind of counsel on, and she would give people who worked with him shit to handle shit this way or handle shit that way because he didn't fucking care about that, right?
Yeah,
So
he didn't
like,
want to do it, yeah.
no. So he appreciated her for that, and like, she is a very stern, she'll fucking give it to you straight type person, and that is admirable. But man, this shit is so fishy. Like the Billy
Well, that's
Corgan
what's-
shit too, where she's like all up on Billy Corgan, and then fucking all of a sudden there's this guy, this band that's coming up, and he's like a really big deal, and now she has to be his girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, to be fair to her, like she went to see Billy, and Billy kind of was like, Oh, like what? Like she arrived in like LA where Billy was or something, and Billy was with his girlfriend at the time, and she kind of went to LA to like get with Billy, and Billy basically was like picked up the phone. She was like, "Hey, I want to come to LA and see you," and he was like, "Yeah, okay." Thinking, well, she'll be in like a week or something, and she was like, "Well, I'm here," and
Oh
he's like, "What the
yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's like, he's with his girlfriend at the time. He's like, well, no, I can't see you. And then she was like, well, that's not happening. So I'm gonna go and see Kate, you know. And so to be fair to her, you know, I think she realized that that was not really a viable option. So she went for her next, you know, viable option, which was Kate. Um, but yeah, it's annoying because like you know, I really, when I was younger, I really liked a lot of Hole songs, and I think there still are some that are good. And she's got a great voice, and
She's a
obviously,
force
you
of
know,
nature, man. Courtney Love is
yeah.
a force of nature, no matter whether you like her, hate her, whatever. She
But
fucking
obviously, you know, Kate as well, like you know, big
oh,
inspiration for me, but
amazing.
an
Yeah,
amazing
imagine
musician.
that, like those two people together. I couldn't even imagine what they were like together, right? Again, it's like the talent, the brains, just everything about each of them. The artist, like just the everything about each of them and then both of them together. It's like putting two singularities together. What do you think's gonna happen, man? Shit's gonna go wild.
Yeah, well, it's you know, to see that and appreciate them for their artistry and all the rest of it, and then you start digging into this, and it, you know, it's disappointing because it's like, you know, you don't want to think like something that creatively explosive in terms of them two being together could just turn into this horrible story of this of manipulation and technically like abuse, you know. I mean, there's that footage in Montage of Heck, which I think was quite big of Courtney to put in, considering the hate she gets, was when it's like Frances's first birthday or something, or it's like her first Christmas, and Kurt like walks off to like put a plate in the kitchen or something. It
Oh,
looks
and she's
like
like, I'm not opening these presents without you. That clip?
screams at him like she looks like the bitchy wife that no one want to be like, and she
Yeah.
puts that in there, you know. So, but I think that's part of Courtney's game is she she frames things in the way she wants to, but then she gives people still gives people a reason to hate her,
Mm-hmm.
and she actively puts that stuff out there, but then, you know, she's still always got her eye on the ball of like how she's being perceived by the vast majority of people. She's yeah, highly intelligent, just like her father says, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other thing as well is like, even if father thinks that she did it,
Oh,
I mean,
he does?
I think he wrote a book about it or something like
Cuz
that. I
he's
could
like
be
a
wrong.
psychiatrist or something. I know he's also highly intelligent. He's either a psychiatrist or is a psychologist. But he
One of
was
the two.
very straightforward the way that he was like talking to Spy Fox about that. You know, he's like, you don't fucking know Courtney if you don't understand that she's a hustler.
Yeah.
Her
She
name isn't anywhere without her consciously ensuring it is there.
yeah.
Duh.
And he was I think he managed the Grateful Dead as well.
Oh,
He
right, yeah.
Yeah, there's a Grateful Dead album where they're all on the front cover and it's like all like girlfriends and babies and stuff, and Courtney Love is on that front cover as a baby.
Oh, is she?
Yeah. So I'll have to find it for you. I've got it. I've got it on CD somewhere. But
I really like that
yeah.
About a Son documentary. It was really good. It was I don't know. Every time I listen to him or every time I see interviews of the three of them, like Dave and Chris and Kurt, it's so endearing. You get more and more endeared to these people because, like, I was telling you the other day, like, it's just the way that pop stars and stuff and rock bands are now. There's just like the interview process seems super contrived. You know what I mean? There's like there's always this theater kid performative energy that they bring, and it just seems sugar coated. Whereas like when you're listening to an interview with the three of the guys and whoever it is, like it's cool because the interviewer is always off camera. They're not a personality that's part of the visuals. You know what I mean? Whereas now the interviewer is like a personality that's part of the whole thing.
It
They're
cuts
like,
back and forth, yeah.
yeah, they're like off camera and they're just asking all the questions. And then the guys are just sitting there shooting the shit, talking. It's like podcast format, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And you get like a real good feel for just the way the three of them are. They're the transition between like who answers questions and shit, it's so smooth. That's how you know they work so well together. And that's why they were a successful band. Because like Dave, Chris, all three of them, they just worked well together. They were a good group. And everybody understood their role and everybody played within it. Like I know that I think it was Channing, right? The drummer prior to Grohl, he was getting ticked off because he wanted to contribute and be part of the songwriting process. And Kurt was like, no, fuck you. And Kurt was talking in About a Boy about how, like, nobody else is going to get credit for the lyrics unless they actually do the fucking work because he's the one who writes the fucking lyrics.
Yeah.
So why should they? And that's
That
fine.
makes sense. Also, as well, I think technically, in a legal sense, in the music industry, the lyric writer gets the majority of the royalties.
Oh.
So I think chords. It's strange because it kind of shows you how important lyrics and melody is to how well a song does in terms of the public eye because majority of people listening to music listen to the words and the melody. They don't really listen to the chords. The chords are just what like the bed the lyrics and the melody is sitting on. So I think that bears out legally as well in terms of what people get paid for,
Yeah.
which is kind of strange because most songs start off somebody playing like whether it's fucking Elton John or you know Varg Vikernes from Bearsum, you're playing chords and then you come up with melodies on top of that, and you don't get melodies and words without chords. So it's kind of strange to me. It almost seems backwards, like legally anyway. So yeah, that would make sense why Kurt's like that because in a legal sense he should be getting more of the writing credit. And when people put in the work, like when Dave basically wrote the riff and the drum beat to Scentless Apprentice. And,
I'm gonna
like,
buy Perfume because of that song now, and because it was his favorite book.
yeah, I read it because of the song, like learning that the song was written about that, and then I ended up reading that, and I think I gave it to my copy to somebody. Never
That's
got it
Peter
back.
Susskind, right? Peter Susskind, Perfume.
Patrick Susskind.
Patrick Susskind.
And I think it's Susskind or Suskins because I know there is an S at the end of his name, but I don't know. It's like it's German. I think he's a German guy. But it's great. There's a movie, There's a movie of it, but it's not as good. Like there's really important characters, like the woman who kind of is like the manager or the owner of the orphanage, the kid who it's about when he's a kid. Like she has this like long story of like how she dies and there's a whole like moral undertone to like her life story in the book, but in the film she just gets like a throat cut in an alley. It's so dumb.
I'm gonna find the name of that, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go get my sunglasses because I think they're sitting out there. Peter.
Patrick.
Fuck. Why do I think it's Peter? Patrick Suskind. Suskind. Suskind.
Ah, okay. I thought it was an S. But yeah, it's a great story. I mean,
About a murderer.
yeah, story. I think it's story of a murderer or story of a murder or something. Yeah, it honestly, like I haven't read a lot of novels. Like I usually like I mean I read like some I mean I've got like Naked Lunch and things like that, some of like the William Burroughs, some like beat poet stuff. But I'm not a big like I'm more into like, something like that's more about information,
Yeah, me too.
instead of
I like
instead
nonfiction
of
more.
novels. Yeah, yeah. But like but that book really did stand out to me. Even more
Guess
so.
what? I just bought it.
Ew. But yeah, it stood out
I
to me
gotta
more than
stop
like
doing that.
Brave,
So
Brave New
easy.
World and all this stuff. You know, like it was
Yeah.
great, but that book stands out above all the other novels that I've read.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't read that many, but um, I think you'll really enjoy it.
Okay.
It's I mean, I remember ages ago, I put Sentenced Apprentice to like a bunch of clips from that movie, and
Mm-hmm.
it worked. It worked so well with the structure of the song. I
Yeah.
think it's on my YouTube channel. I'll have to re-upload it again. It's great.
Okay, so let's take a quick break. I am just gonna go run outside and see what other sunglasses of mine are here. Actually,
Okay.
I don't know. I'm kind of confused because it still says something is on the way, but it also just said something was delivered. I wonder what it was. Order 7013455. What is it?
There was something else that I think you might have ordered.
Fuck, I've been doing a lot of that though. I've been doing a lot
So
of that.
you got those sunglasses. The other, did
I
you
got
get a
the
brown pair and black ones you got?
I got those round ones that have the heart in the middle.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got these ones. I got red ones like these, obviously, because Kurt. And then I
Well,
got,
it'll be the red ones that are still coming.
yeah, but also I got 8 heart-shaped pairs.
Yeah, and you got the round ones as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The steampunk ones that have like the. Remember in Terminator 2, she was wearing those fucking rad glasses that had like. It just looks like they're a shield, so nothing else can come and like hit you and get in
I've
your
never
eyes.
I've never seen Terminator 2.
What?
I don't really like that kind of like, that
I
kind of
shouldn't even
movie.
say that. I just saw that movie for the first time like a couple of months ago, so I'm not that cool either. It's fine.
I thought so. But, no, yeah, I like them. I like them ones. I saw them a while ago. But the thing is, as a Scouser with long hair who plays guitar, you can't be wearing round glasses without looking like fucking
John
John
Lennon.
Lennon.
But that's okay. What's wrong with that?
Yeah,
He was a fucking icon.
yeah, but I'm gonna be my
I'm
own icon.
channeling these guys' style, man. Kurt Cobain knew what he was doing with these sick glasses.
See now, if you had blonde hair and like a cardigan on and stuff like,
It's too bad I
I'd
would look really gross with blonde hair.
but I'd probably be like, yeah, it's a little bit too far. But just wearing the glasses, that sound. But like, cause I've got like long hair and a fucking like big fucking nose and shit. If I had them glasses on, I'd just look too much like John Lennon.
I saw pink ones that were round like Lennon's, and I want those. I like the ones you sent me that had like the really pretty hearts in them, but they're only in the UK, so I can't fucking get them.
Well, your birthday and stuff's coming up.
Oh yeah, it totally is. Actually, not yet. It's August. It's 6 months away.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying. That gives you time to forget about it, so I don't have to get you anything.
I think I'm having issues with the thoracic part of my spine. Maybe I have scoliosis too. Now
What about
I'm just like, I want to be like Kurt. I hope I have scoliosis. What a fucking loser. I'll take
Yeah.
his talent, please.
I had the problem with the Jurassic Park part of my back.
The Jurassic Park one here? You're a fucking idiot.
It's dad jokes, that's what it is.
I know. I know. Okay, can you entertain? Can you just like chill for a couple minutes?
Yeah. If they're not entertained, they need to fuck off and die.
All right, ready?
Yeah, go.
Ooh. Hold on a second. Wait, what I want to do here is I'm going to black it out. 100 opacity 87. There.
Black your camera out.
Yeah, now you can't see me. I'll be right back.
Alright. See you in a bit.
Think of more things to talk about the murder because we got carried away because I love Kurt.
Okay. She can't hear me, so. Yeah, so if anyone's watching this back right now, fucking making noise, stupid cunt. There's a YouTuber called American Spy Fox, and he's done I think it's a 12 or 15 part series on Nirvana, and it's It's about Cobain and the band in general, but it gets into the whole conspiracy and Courtney and all like that subject as well. And it's really well researched. It's really well done. I think everyone should go and check them out. And yeah, I would like to interview him at some point, but we'll see. Anyway, the sunglasses monster is back. So
But these aren't sunglasses. Remember I told you last night I ordered that pillow to put in between my thighs so that I can sleep and keep my back aligned?
is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think the glasses are here yet because it still says they're on the way. Amazon's actually really good in the sense that they... Hold on. Let's go filters. 87. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, whoa, wee, wah. There. So, may as well just open it now.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Address and shit.
What?
Your address is on the box.
Oh, you're smart. Thanks for saying that. It's really
Yeah.
small. Good thing you can't really see it.
You can't see it, but
Thank you for keeping me
it's okay.
safe.
That's why I'm here.
I know. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it is. It's the pillow. That means I'm gonna sleep with it tonight, and it'll be good. So Amazon Prime kicked my ass last night because I had already bought About a Son and spent the $10 on YouTube, and then I realized as I'm searching Kurt Cobain on Amazon because I was like, I should get a fucking shirt. Like I actually I'm doing a deep dive and I like them now to a point where it's acceptable for me to buy a shirt. You know, I listened to all the albums, blah 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 blah. And I go to look, and it's like, hey, guess what? About a Son is free on Amazon Prime. And I was like, what the fuck? But it's okay. Worth the money. Actually, the only person whose pocket I put money in yesterday or when I bought it was Courtney Love's.
Yeah. Oh, maybe some of it went to Francis, so that's good.
Oh, yeah, that I don't mind. Okay.
I just think it's crazy the way I'm the same age as that girl, like, and like how different. Just it's crazy. I couldn't imagine that being
See?
this age
Look.
and having all that around you. Ah.
You know, I didn't even think about what you had
You know
said
what that-
earlier. What?
What that really is.
What?
That's just a weird diaper. It's because Aimee wets the bed. So full of
But
weird.
not in the way that you think.
No, that's only when I'm around.
I didn't even think about what you said earlier of like people fucking going to her Instagram and talking shit about how like your mom killed your dad. Like, dude, no matter what I think or what feelings I have, I would never want to go to anybody I had access to and be like, how do you feel about your mom killing your dad?
It's disgusting.
Like the documentaries aren't enough. Like questioning that. Like this poor girl who never even got to spend time with her dad, who by the way probably would have just like loved her. He loved her so much, and you could just see it in the documentary and in the clips of them together, like them playing together, and it was so cute, man.
Oh yeah, like
You are
I think
assholes.
it's part of the reason. It's part of the reason he kept going on for so long was because of her. Like, you know, I think he would have dropped all that music shit a longer time before he did, if it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
Which is not. I'm not saying if it wasn't for her, you know, he would be alive. No, I'm saying, you know, he wouldn't have. It was a good thing that he did that. He wanted to provide for his daughter for the rest of her life, and that's something that no one can take that away from him. He did that, you know.
You know, I would really like to, and I hope at some point they do this, where like they bring Chris and Dave together and they actually talk about it. So Dave Grohl did that recent interview that I sent you with Apple Music, where he doesn't really talk about it that much. He briefly mentions the fact, like it was probably like 3 or 4 minutes of the entire 15-minute conversation where he talks about like how he kind of retreated away and just kind of disappeared because he couldn't deal with it. And like seeing pictures of them, right, from back in the day, like that picture I sent you where he's like laying on Kurt's chest and he's like sucking on his thumb and shit, like that was in the middle of a photo shoot. Like they were doing some sort of promotional shoot for a magazine or something, and whoever snapped that picture, thank them, man, because that shit is so cute. Like the camaraderie between those three and how tight they were, where like the interviewer would ask a question and like for like everybody just knew who was going to answer the question. There was barely, I never saw any of them cut each other off. Like it was so rare that they would cut each other off. One person would start talking and then like Kurt would stay quiet. Kurt did not have that like I'm the lead singer of this band complex. He wasn't like I'm the star, you know, like
Well, they were in sync so much
yeah.
because they were in a band together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that would transition to like them talking, whatever it was. You know, it's and also as well. I think I was telling you the other day, like that what they experienced as young men together is a bonding experience that
Yeah.
none of like hardly anybody gets to experience. Like that's what made the Beatles so great was like the fact that they were stuck in hotel rooms like from when they played in um I can't remember the European country where they played where they got all their chops, but from day one they were stuck in like shitty little hotel rooms. Even when they got like big and famous, they were stuck in hotel rooms because they couldn't go out because there was just mobs of fans everywhere. So you really get to know each other
You remember
in
how yesterday we were talking about like how difficult it actually is to live with someone and be in someone's space all the fucking time? Like that is something they had to overcome. Kurt was talking about a boy, about a son, about how like him and Chris, they just like they understood each other to a point where like if someone was angry or something, they didn't really have to like have a conversation. It was something along those lines. I can't remember the exact thing. But Dave and him seem like Dave, I don't even know. I'm just making assumptions now based on what I've seen, but like
it's fine.
that thought just
It's
ended
fine.
there. That was like diarrhea of the mouth. Like everything I say. This topic just excites me so much because it's so new to me. This is why I love not being into things when other people are into things because like it's like way more exciting. I'm like in my own little world with this whole thing and like, it's fun.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because with Nirvana, like I think I was still in high school. I must have been maybe 12, 13, and my dad gave me From the Muddy Banks of the Wishkar, which was a live compilation album, and it's basically like songs from Nevermind, songs from Incesticide, songs from In Utero, and like it's all the best performances that they picked, and they're all on this album. I used to listen to that album all the time, and I remember taking it on holiday when I was a kid, and we used to take the CDs because it was back when there was no MP3 players and all that. I'm such an old guy, but
You're an old soul.
yeah. So it's just like before like mini disc players and like we still just use like them portable Walkman like CD players. And
Loved mine.
I remember like
I fell asleep
strapping
with
mine like
mine.
a belt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. I used to hide mine. Like I used to do this thing in school where we had blazers, and they had these pockets, and I would put the Walkman in, and then I actually put a hole in that pocket so the headphones could go up the sleeve and then out of the sleeve. So
Yeah.
then in class I would sit there like this.
Oh,
And
you're
I would just
cute.
be listening to
You're so cute.
and you couldn't see it because it was like inside the sleeve.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so when we went on holiday and we used to take like a bunch of CDs out of the cases, put them in like a soft CD case, and we left like 20 something albums on a plane somewhere, like me and my dad.
Aw. Yeah.
And the Muddy Banks of the Wishkar CD was in there, but I've still got the case somewhere. But that album I really loved for a long time, and then I kind of fell out of it. I was listening to a lot of more stuff, and I had this Nirvana Muddy Banks of the Wishkar T-shirt, and I gave it to my friend. And then like years later, he wasn't listening to them, and he was like, "Do you want that shirt?" And I was like, "I'll have it. I mean, it's one of my old shirts. I'll have it." And then that got me back onto like the whole Nirvana thing again, and I just like I went balls deep. You know what I mean? Just like you're doing now, and
You know,
it's
I
great.
didn't hear
Great
about
to hear.
Nirvana until much later, like in high school, because when Kurt died and when they blew up, I was like an infant. You know what I mean? I was like 3 years old because they blew up in '91. Nevermind was '91, right?
Yeah,
I think Nevermind was '91, and I was only 3 then. And any of the music that I listened to in the '90s was curated by my parents' taste in music. So there was this thing here that we had called Columbia House. Columbia House, did you guys have that in England? So it was this, I don't know how it worked exactly. You like pay a penny or something and you get 20 CDs a month or some crazy shit like that. It was,
uh, it's like a record club kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it was like a weird thing like that. And my parents would always pick the 20 CDs that would be sent to the house. And it was always like fucking Lenny Kravitz and NXS and TLC and Janet Jackson, all the Michael Jackson you could imagine. Who was the guy with the fucking earring? George?
George Michael.
Yeah, George Michael. You know, Elton John was in that collection. So there were a lot of like popular famous artists of the time and stuff. Oasis, of course, but never any like heavy rock because that just wasn't my parents' jam. So I never
Yeah,
was exposed to any of those things. I was never allowed to watch MTV or Much Music because my parents thought it was way too raunchy or something for me as a child to watch music videos and watch all these fucking, like, if my parents saw me watching Smells Like Teen Spirit, they'd be like, oh my God, what is this devil shit you're watching? Like, this is not how we want you to act as a kid. You know what I mean? So they just never allowed me to watch those things as a kid. That's why I'm so super innocent. It's retarded. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. No, I mean it's understandable from what you've told me.
yeah.
I mean, I was just really lucky. I mean, I like that album you were listening to, the Buena Vista Social Club,
Yeah.
and then also the Cuban All Stars, which is some of the same guys. They
Hmm.
made their own album. That is like what I listened to growing up. My dad would in the old house. My dad would just go through his like vinyl and CD
Hmm.
collections, and he would make like mixtapes for like the car or his friends. And I always remember just like so I would hear like it was basically like when DJs like put a set together. It was basically like that.
Hmm.
So I would just be exposed to all sorts. And I mean, I remember listening to like um what's his name he had cystic fibrosis, I think. I can't remember his name, but he has this song, uh, and like I always remember the lyrics. It's like, "Hit me with your rhythm stick, two fat ladies, click, click, click," and you're like hearing that as a kid, like in the car, you're like, What's this?" And like "Brimful of Asher" by the Corner Shop was like a big song. Like, that was a big song when I was like growing up. So I just
Songs
remember the
I've never
radio.
heard, but yeah.
Yeah, it's Ian Drudy is the guy I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember, and yeah, like that song was I think it was called "Hit Me with Your Rhythm Stick" or something of that, something like that. And then he has a song like "Reasons to Be Cheerful," and like it just like perfect stuff to listen to when you're a kid. And but I was really lucky because I mean the whole reason I told you earlier, the whole reason I got into Radiohead was because my mum gave me OK Computer, and she
Favorite
listened to
Radiohead
Moby.
album?
Yeah,
Best.
it,
In
it
Rainbows
is.
is amazing, but OK Computer is fucking fantastic.
I just love
Sorry,
I love
bro.
him.
Sorry, bro.
Oh yeah, we're never gonna agree on that. But
There's just like a vibe to OK Computer. It's because of
oh,
that Subterranean song. That's my favorite Radiohead song. It's so beautiful. But
yeah,
anyway,
and
sorry to cut you off.
it's got like Let Down and stuff like that on it, which is a beautiful song. But yeah, so I was lucky because my dad just through him enjoying music, like he exposed me to all sorts of things. And then my mum loved like Faithless and Moby, you know, like more like electronic stuff. And so I got exposed to a lot of that stuff. And then as I got older and I started getting into like punk music and stuff, and then I'd listen to the Misfits like all the fucking time, and like then I was in that band as a kid, and like then you get exposed to your friends' music tastes,
Yeah.
and then I think the final thing was skate videos. Like every skater that like they have their own part where they have all the stuff they've filmed, and like
Hmm.
they would pick their own song. So I heard like Pinback, Modest Mouse,
Oh,
like
Modest Mouse, man.
uh amazing,
So
amazing.
good. That
So
album that I
yeah,
listened to 2 weeks ago or whatever it was, such a fucking good album. The Westward
Lone,
something.
Lonesome Crowded West, I think it's called.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one. You got
that's
it.
that's the first one I listened to. I think my dad put on like a CD for me or something, and I was obsessed with it. Yeah, like that. But like that's the thing though. It's like you know, if you've got a curious mind when it comes to any kind of art or creative endeavor, at some point you're gonna get exposed to certain things if you're open to it. And like I don't think it matters when you get into it or how long you've been listening to it. Like the point is that you are experiencing it and you're getting into it, and like that's the important part because that's what matters. You know what I mean? I
But
mean,
it's fun now. Like, it's fun posthumously from Kurt and posthumously from their career to be into it because, like, you hear about how much hype was around or surrounded Nirvana, right? Like this wasn't like a national phenomena. This was a global phenomena. Like Nirvana became huge fucking everywhere. So much to a point where Kurt was being called the voice of a generation, which by the way, he fucking hated that. And to understand, to have an understanding and to see why people were so hype about it. That's like a different experience too. You know what I mean? Like when you're in the hype it's different. But when you're viewing the hype from the outside afterwards, it's also different.
hindsight.
Yeah, it's really cool and like his voice, man. Like Kurt Cobain had such an amazing unique voice. That's what I said about Courtney. Like Courtney Love is the female version of Kurt Cobain's voice too in a
She has
lot of
that
ways.
raspy tone. Yeah,
Rasp,
yeah, yeah.
deep, powerful, strong, like just an utter force of nature. And his songwriting ability, and even if he's saying the same shit over and over again, the way that he wrote it into his music was just so, like, it's so fucking compelling where you want to thrash your head and you want to say the lyrics and you want to fucking scream and sing along. Like, Nevermind is so good. It's like the quintessential rock anthem album. I love In Utero, but I think that like in this setting right now where it's summer and it's nice and like a lot of the guitar playing in Nevermind sounds very, very aquatic to me. Like it sounds like it has like it's like a guitar you're playing in water. The way that like the reverb is applied to it or whatever it is that's applied to it, like it just sounds very fluid. It's not choppy. It's just so nice to listen to. And it has like this energy behind it. And Kurt wanted it to be more poppy. That's why it's particularly appealing because it has that pop element to it. But it also has that very hard punk rock kind of aspect, and it's grungy as well. Like it has every element from In Bleach and Incesticide with that like mesh of pop music and just like catchiness and like things you wouldn't expect, and then you have that booming thick voice of his too, right? Like it's just so much of everything. And
It's
then
a
you get to
perfect song.
yeah, and then you get to know the guy and you're like, or like you hear interviews of him and you like I watch these documentaries and like you can't help but be endeared to these people because their story is just so crazy how they went from this like they were making $30 a day, you know what I mean? And then they blew up and they're just this huge fucking thing and people are fucking screaming at him in the streets and like, oh my god, look at that fucking metalhead wearing a Nirvana shirt. And he used to hate that. He used to hate it when he would see certain people wear his shit. It was really funny.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, in About a Son, he's like, I fucking hate average people. Like, I can't fucking stand them. They piss me off so much. Like, I either have to not talk to them and stay away, or every time I'm around them, I feel compelled to, like, talk shit. I was like, oh man, we would not get along. He would fucking hate me so much. Because, like, you know, I just come off really kind of dumb and, like, the type of person that he does not like. I feel like I come off like that. So I was like, oh, he'd hate me, but that's okay.
I don't know. I mean, look, you never know. I mean, he could hate me and like you. Like that's just. I don't think you'll ever be able to tell that thing. But you're right about the kind of perfect storm of that album because you basically got a kid who grew up listening to like Black Flag and Black Sabbath and then he loved the Beatles and stuff
Yeah.
and then you have the first album on like a big major label and they got this like producer.
Albini?
Nah, it was Butch Vig. Albini did In Utero.
Oh, okay, okay.
And like, Butch Vig put this kind of like pop production on it, like double track vocals or overdub vocals, like sometimes like 3 layers, I think, and then like bunch of guitars,
Mm-hmm.
and more emphasis on the vocals because a lot of like that kind of underground music, like the vocals aren't really like center stage.
They're not prominent, no.
No, but like they are on that album, and
Yeah.
I mean, even in Utero, the first mixes that were done by Albini got sent to this guy called Scott Litt because they thought the record label and even Nirvana thought on some of the songs that the vocals were too buried. So, you know, yeah, it's like I do, I've Nevermind's always gonna have a soft spot in my heart, and I mean, it's got songs like Territorial Pistons on it, which is just like the first time I remember hearing that, it was just like, what the fuck is this? It's just amazing.
I
And
feel like if I heard that on any other punk rock record, it would just be really difficult to listen to. But again, I was telling you like that the depth, the range of his voice, like how dynamic his voice is, because he just has that naturally low, rumbly, deep, manly voice. When he's screeching, that depth is still in his voice, so it balances out that screeching. And then you have like the deep bass too, which also kind of balances the screeching, so it's not difficult to listen to. That's the same thing with Courtney Love, where she, like, her voice is airy and she has a very airy, ASMR kind of quality to it, and when she screams, you can hear that screech. It really is like a dog whistle. It's so high pitched and you're like, how the fuck do you even get there? But again, like, she has that deep, raspy undertone. It was the undertone in their voice that balanced out the screeching, so it wasn't like you were listening to like some fucking cacophony of noise. It was just, it worked. It worked so well. Their voices were perfect for the places that they were putting it in their songs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're both really great. Like they're great at hollering and like screaming, shouting, and I think it all comes down to just release. Like Kurt Cobain had release for days. I mean, you listen to him live and you listen to him on the recordings. I mean, at the end of Territorial Pistons or the end of Tourette's on In Utero, like his voice, like it's almost like early distortion where you would just get a valve amplifier and just crank it up, and at some point the signal breaks and becomes distorted. Like, that's what his voice is like. It's like at the end. I mean, at the end of Teen Spirit when he's singing "A Denial," like his voice is just like breaking. It's like his vocal cords are just like you can hear the
strain.
Yeah, and it's like, and he just hits that point at where his voice almost distorts, and it's like a loud vocal fry, but it's just release for days. He could do anything he wanted with his voice.
It sounds like he has like something on his voice. Like, when like, how Queens of the Stone Age does that shit to their guitar where they like fuck with it and it like produces this sound? Like, that's what Kurt Cobain's voice sounds like, but he just has a natural ability to use it in that way. It's so impressive because like you have to just have a certain kind of voice. You have to have that almost raspy quality in your voice to produce that almost distorted sounding sound that you get at the end of Teen Spirit or at the end of Territorial Pissings, where he's just fucking screaming and you're like, good lord, like your voice should break here, like you're going through puberty and you should have a problem, but it's not. Like he just took his vocal cords to the limit and you're like, motherfucker, this is great.
Yeah, I think. Look, I was not there at the mixing of Nevermind or whatever, but I do.
You
think
sure about that?
probably,
Just kidding.
there probably is some kind of saturation or some kind of distortion added to his vocal track to give it that extra impact, and also you've got,
Sure.
he's double tracking his vocals, so you've got two versions of him singing it, so it's gonna give it that kind of, almost like double tonal quality to it. But you listen to him sing live, and that quality is still there, and it's just him going through a PA system. And like, I think that thing with the Queens of the Stone Age, I think it's just like very middle rangey. And also Kurt did that, like, because I've looked into like, because I got a Mesa Boogie, which is the preamp that Kurt used on a lot of the records, and he used it primarily live. And I looked into the settings and stuff he had on, because like his guitar techs have like done interviews where they talk about the settings and stuff, and he basically would crank up all the mid range, like a little bit of low end, and then like quite a lot of treble, like high end. And like I've done it, like I've got the same distortion pedal he used, and then I've got the same preamp going through a Marshall cab like he would use. Like, yeah, it's a cheaper cab, not like the one he would use with like Celestian speakers. I'm getting into all
No,
too
no,
much
no.
techie
Please
stuff.
keep going. Who cares?
But and I can like kind of dial in his tone. I mean, I have single coil pickups, so he used humbuckers, so it's a little bit off, but I can get that kind of tone. So his voice with his voice having that tone to it with that guitar tone is perfect.
He was so beautiful too. I've never seen such a perfect face. Same with Courtney Love. Like, she's so beautiful, man. Let's say even pre-surgery, even like she had a problem with her nose, whatever. Like there's just something about that girl. Just like there's just something about Kurt. Like his face, his eyes, man. Like his eyes were so intense.
I think Courtney was way better looking before any surgery.
Yeah, now she, like, everybody, when everybody gets surgery, they're all going for what people like on average, right? So that sharp, pointy nose, and like her lips were already thick, so I really fail to understand why, now it's like,
Well, I think it's as people age, like their lips become less full, so she's probably just going, I swear my lips used to be fuller, but she probably just had better circulation, more blood going to her
all
lips.
she
Like,
needed to do, honestly, if she didn't want sagging, is maybe just like a little Botox, right? Like you just need a little Botox if you don't want wrinkles in your face. But her face, like she has the kind of face that's youthful, like it's very cute. She has such a cute little face. And then she went and did all that stuff. I still think she's beautiful. She's so beautiful today, even.
I mean, I just don't get like. I mean, I've seen footage of Kurt like at the MTV Awards and stuff, and his face is all like scabby, because he's like, that's when he was. I think that's when heroin was it was getting bad. But I don't get how like then he just stops like doing heroin for a couple of months and he completely bounces back and he looks like really healthy. I don't get that shit. Like I mean, I fucked up my body like with lesser drugs,
There's something
nothing
about
like,
heroin and
it fucked me up for a long time.
Yeah.
In terms of how I looked, I don't get how he bounced back so quick.
because I think he just had naturally beautiful skin. You know what I mean? Like when you see him from when he was young, look at his pictures from when he was younger, right? Like flawless face. His face is perfect. That boy, like from a boy to a teenager, he didn't even really have a bad acne phase. He just had beautiful skin all the time. It was only when he was using that he broke out and shit, because there's something about meth and heroin and these things. I don't know what exactly it is that fucks up your hormone levels or whatever that causes you to break out and you get all scabby, or you feel like itchy, right? Like something
Well,
is
it's
on
scratch.
your skin. Yeah.
Junkies notoriously scratch, and like they don't like to take baths and stuff. Like in Naked Lunch, oh no, sorry, in Junkie by William Burroughs, because he was a notorious heroin addict, and him and Kurt actually wrote a song, well, recorded a song together. But
But wasn't it from a distance? Not together, right?
no, I think like Kurt just like just made some noise on a guitar and it got sent, and then William Burroughs just recorded a poem called "The Priest," they called him, over it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like in Junkie, he talks about the kind of quintessential things that Junkie, like apparently when you're on heroin, like especially when you say if you're like going cold turkey, you haven't had it for a while, like the feeling of water on your skin is apparently like really horrible. So like there's still these little things. I think I think you're just doing a drug full time like that. You're not looking after yourself. Your
No.
hygiene goes down. And meth as well. I think something happens with meth, like with the chemical composition, like when you're smoking it, it like rots your teeth and your gums.
Yeah.
So
We've
it's
all
just
seen the memes of like people who started taking meth like before and after.
yeah.
It's
And
just
then
so gross.
And then now you see like the memes where it's like somebody who's like some girl and she's like in a pretty dress in the summer, like before she goes to university, and then she goes to university and she becomes like a social justice warrior. And now she's got like a fucking ring through her fucking
Pink
nose, her
hair.
hair parted, yeah, or she's got like half of her head shaved off and shit. And it's like, whoa, what the fuck happened to you? And it's like sometimes you don't even need drugs to fucking ruin yourself. But
No.
yeah, I mean, I think, look, some people just hit the fucking genetic lottery. I mean, some of my friends at school had like really bad acne, and I rarely, like, I probably get like, one or two, maybe a couple of like every so often, every couple of months, and like it was the same when I was at school. Even when I hit puberty, like I don't remember really having anything bad, you know.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I totally bypassed acne. That was something that Courtney complained about a lot. She remember that when you're fat, you can't call the shots. That shit made me laugh so fucking much. See, that's the thing
It's
that's
true.
very much about her I appreciate. Like she's super fucking straight up in a lot of ways that you wouldn't expect someone to be straight up in, you know?
Yeah, especially like in the public eye. She doesn't. It's weird. She's got this really. She, she's got this attitude where she clearly doesn't care about how people perceive her,
But
but
she
she,
does.
but she carefully constructs how people see her. It's like Bobby Lee. Bobby Lee is like this rich guy who buys like $600 like jeans and stuff, but he buys that stuff because he knows it makes him look like he doesn't have money. He buys expensive shit that makes you look like you don't have money, like he's some fucked up artist, and he even admits it. It's almost like that, but in a public image scenario, which is also another great band, Public Image Limited, which is Johnny Rotten's band
One
from the
at a
second.
time, okay?
I'm sorry, it's all fucking flowing, man.
No, I know, man. It's all flowing, man. You can go with the flow. Da-da-da-da-da. It's a rabbit hole to start with, because not only is there the murder conspiracy, but then there's also just like they're so compelling as a band, Nirvana, that you just want to know about them. Like I can't stop watching interviews with them, even if they're an hour long. They're just sitting there shooting the shit. It is so hard not to continue to watch once you start, because like it's so hard not to love them. It's so hard not to love Kurt. It's so hard not to love Dave, especially Dave, because like he's always making faces and being fucking funny. Like that Learn to Fly video is just how Dave is. He's like that
Yeah.
through all the Nirvana years and through all the interviews and like that's just him. He's just I imagine
Have you ever
he's
seen
super
the?
fun.
Oh yeah, he's just like known as like the nicest guy in music. Like everyone loves him. But like, have you ever seen that clip? I think it's Saturday Night Live and Charles. I think his name was like Charles Barkley or something. He's some
Oh
American
my
side
god,
guy.
and it's such an
The
awkward.
black guy.
Yeah, Charles Barkley was a
And,
basketball player for the Phoenix Suns. Why the
oh
fuck was
yeah,
Nirvana with them? It was just an SNL appearance and they were
it's
both
an
there and taking a
SNL
picture.
appearance.
Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
god,
But have
and
you seen
Dave's just
that?
like
Well, Dave's like just chin, like,
yeah.
and then Kurt's kind of just stand there like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then like, and he's like, what does he say? Look, mom, it's Nirvana or something like that. Like Charles Barkley, yeah, yeah. And
One of my favorite clips of all time is always going to be, "Hey Canadians, no offense, but it's Nirvana, not Nirvana." It's just so funny, like fucking
yeah,
Canadians, fucking Canadians.
yeah, fucking Canadians. But yeah, I think it is. It's just they weren't concerned about how they were perceived. They just wanted to like do what they were good at, and anything else was just part of the course. And they didn't take it seriously, so they could have a laugh. And I think, did you watch that thing I sent you? Fresh Pots, the Dave Grohl thing. Oh, you need to watch that. It's so
I just
fucking funny.
realized that Sound City is on Amazon Prime. That's what I'm watching tonight, and I'm so excited to watch
You're gonna
that.
be
Like,
that that documentary is amazing.
I can't even tell you how fucking excited I am to watch that. Play was so good, and that was just like a half an hour, and it was like Dave playing all the instruments, and I just really love him. So it's like I gotta go see it. But Sound City has my guys in it, you know? And now I'm like, okay, after this whole Nirvana thing, like I did the Nine Inch Nails dive. I'm doing the Nirvana dive. I think Queens of the Stone Age is next. Like I need
Well,
to know more about Josh Homme.
well, that's quite. I mean, that's gonna be a long dive because like he was in Caius
Yeah.
in like like late 80s, early 90s, I think, and then all the way up to I think they broke in like 97 or something. And he was just like the guitar player. Like there's a documentary about that, and like it's about all the kind of like heavy bands that came out of the desert in California, and he was part of that whole scene. And then obviously there's the Queens of the Stone Age stuff, and then there's like the stuff he did with Dave and John Paul Jones, which was them Crooked Vultures. And I'll be honest, like I've never really got that much into his music, but he's great at what he does for sure.
Yeah, what were you
So
saying
that'll be a long
yesterday?
time.
You told me that he was like trying to tell the person who helped him produce one of his albums to like not divulge or reveal the way that they created that guitar sound that they have, which by the way I've never heard in any other song. But my music knowledge is obviously not as expansive, so
Yeah, it was something like I think it was a Rick Beato video, and he broke down a Queens of the Stone Age song, and he was talking about how Josh is quite protective of how he gets that guitar tone, or how he did with the engineer and the producer who worked with him. And then there's an interview with the guy who produced, I can't remember which album it was, but and he kind of goes into a little bit of it, but he doesn't like, it's kind of like the microphones that were used, the amplifiers that were used, um how they were placed, all this stuff. But the guy basically just says it's basically like a lot of mid-range, like the mid-range is turned up on the amp, then they put an EQ on it with like, in the pedal board with a lot of mid-range, and then they like, when they then process it, when they mix it, there's a lot more mid-range added. It's basically just like really mid-rangey guitars. It's like, because metal guitar, you scoop the mid range, so you're cutting the mid range out of the sound, so it's a lot of like high end and a lot of low end to give it that like chuggy sound. But then in a lot of kind of like more like rock music, like indie music and stuff, it's more the opposite. So you're getting a lot of the mid range stuff and cutting out a lot of the low end and a lot of the high end. So I think that's basically what he did. But look, you're never gonna get, I can't get half of the guitar tunes that I got like last year when I was recording my album because I don't know. I can't remember what I was doing. I can't remember how I had the mic set up. If I had two mics set up, if what settings I had on my pedal board, all that shit. Like you need to really write that stuff down to remember it. And I didn't because I'm not going to be going out and touring anytime soon. So, and guess who just uploaded a video?
Who?
The American Spy Fox.
Ah, what about?
It just says new channel announcement, I think, because like half of the title's cut off. So
I didn't finish all 15 videos of the Nirvana series he did about Kurt's death because I think where I am right now is the week of Kurt's death where they're talking about like what happened with his friends and like what his friends were saying and all that kind of stuff. I like it. Like I don't feel like it's contrived as much as it may feel like it's a little biased. Like I don't know if I think it is because like all the things that he said about Courtney are factual. Like it's things that she has said about herself to give you a better picture of who she is. Like wanting fucking influence and wanting to be famous and wanting to be the queen of punk rock. Like these are all things that are very much known about her. I mean, even her father says she's a hustler, right? So I don't think so. I get it when he starts saying like, it just seems kind of weird. I think it was her that was involved in his death and like it's really hard not to have that thought when there's all these weird things around the case of the death, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I think it was presented really well and I think he did a great job and I just feel like
no, you're right. Like
yeah.
that what I like about that is it's a very well researched,
Yeah.
honest, deep dive into the information that's out there. And he has his own opinions and he puts them out there in there. But the fact is, it's like I came to my own conclusions. Like if you're watching something and you're just changing your opinions like the wind or like the weather, whichever
But
way.
that's
the
what
wind's
happened
fucking
with
blowing.
me. So what the fuck do you mean?
Well, no, because look, right, there's a difference between having like knowing all the knowledge, right? And then one person says one thing, and then one person says another thing, and you just go, "Well, I'm watching this person now, so I
Oh,
go
I
along
see
with
what you're
this."
saying. Yeah.
You had like I remember like the last stream I was saying, you're at the start of this information. You've had it all revealed to you, and your opinions has changed. It's like as more information comes to you, if the data or the information bears out that you're wrong, you should change along the
Oh, of
line. That's
course,
what you're
yeah.
doing right now.
Yeah.
But like I think if you're just going along with whatever the person's saying, like that's and the whole story, it's kind of weak in it.
Oh, it's just so fucking weird. Like I wonder at the 25-year anniversary or something if they'll open it back up. Like I wonder if they will ever reopen this case again. I really do wonder because it was just so poorly handled. Everything about it was absolute garbage. Like why would you fucking let them tear down that garage 6 days after you pulled him out of it?
Yeah.
Why would you
Well,
do that?
I think they did reopen it briefly, like maybe like a couple of years something ago, and then they just closed it again. It was kind of just like a press stunt. Yeah.
But like Seattle PD just looked fucking stupid in my opinion. Like there's nothing more stupid than the idea of declaring a suicide so soon when you don't even know all the facts of the shit. And then the autopsy shit and like it's just so weird that people just believed Courtney. Believe all women. It's just so weird how they believed her. This is the problem with media in general, right? Is like if you are somebody who can get a hold of the media and you can get just a nugget of information out there, it spreads like wildfire through the media. And then Remember when I came to you, what was the first thing I said to you? I was like, oh, he fucking committed suicide. I don't think she did it. I think it's bullshit. Blah, 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 blah. And then you like look into it more and you see more information and you're like, all right, this is kind of fucked. Like, there's just
Yeah.
something about this set is going to be permanently fucked, and it is going to be a permanently interesting story because I don't think they're going to open it again because I don't think the Seattle PD wants to take responsibility or hold themselves accountable for how badly they fucked up with that
Exactly.
investigation. You know what I mean? And like fans will lose their shit. Like 50-year-olds and 45-year-olds will come out and fucking riot. Like it's just like that, you know what I mean? I can see it happening. Why wouldn't you be pissed off? This is like somebody who growing up like you idolized and you're like fans see it as like he was taken away from me.
Yeah.
Kurt
Exactly. Yeah.
Cobain was taken away from me. Like I finally felt like I had somebody that was an outlet for the teenage angst that I felt and like not feeling like I fit in and just wishing that like at a school assembly everybody would just be like fuck you and just get together and mosh in the middle of the gym and shit. Like he had an energy that connected with so many teenagers at the time. And it's difficult not to imagine people getting pissed off if the Seattle PD decided to open it because I think they would find some shit that probably wouldn't make them look very good. And like the other problem is like it would just make Courtney look bad. Like my sense is that last year, you know what I mean? Like even though he was dealing with pressure and stuff, it just seemed like he was happier, like he was healthier, and he was like feeling better because he had Francis and everything was going well for him. And all of a sudden he's like, fuck it. Whereas I had the total opposite opinion to a week and a half ago. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know. Like,
The
now that
entire story.
but now that I've also saw his, like, physical evolution, right? Like, you saw when he was sickly and he was super thin and he looked ill. But then near the end of that time, he did not look ill. He didn't look like rail thin and shit. He looked like he was fairly healthy and very happy. So it's very difficult to tell because, I mean, people are also really great at projecting things. And if you're in front of a camera, you're just going to tend to have a different face and stuff. But I don't know,
Yeah.
man. I just don't know, man. That's it.
Well, yeah, exactly. We don't know,
Yeah.
and it's just it's fun and it's interesting to look into it, you know. And it's like, you know, I mean, I mean, it just is what it is, you know. You can't change it,
Yeah.
and it's sad because we would have got some cool music from him if he was, you know, if he kept going, but we don't get that, do we?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I have no idea.
Do you
But,
think that's it then?
No, there's just a lot more. I mean, he is just a very interesting character in general. Aside from the death investigation and all that kind of stuff, he is just very interesting as a person because, you know, I have his journals now and you read the things that he writes and it's like, I would never think of this combination of words. I would never think to write something or describe something like this. You know, he's so interesting just aside from all the fucking other shit that there's like a million things to talk about. We haven't even got to the journal yet. We're just talking about the death and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think once we get, well, once you get to the kind of end of the road with all this information and like,
All you can do is
you know,
speculate, right? Like, there's nothing more. Once you kind
oh
of know
yeah,
the information, you know it.
yeah, I guess yeah, but like, you know, there's so much. I mean, we can always just do more.
I do want to do
And
the journals, though. We should
well, yeah,
definitely
yeah.
do that next week.
All
Because,
right,
you
then we'll
know,
do that next.
I'm not leaving this Kurt vortex I'm in because I enjoy him quite a much. That was drunken speak. I enjoy him quite a bit and I think he's just intriguing as a person. He was definitely highly intelligent, highly creative, very talented, And it's just like, imagine the shitstorm of all of that in one person, right? You got to be feeling chaotic all the time. Like, he must have had ideas just popping into his head constantly that he couldn't even always write down because he had other ideas that were also bombarding his mind and inundating his mind all the time. And then he had to
I know.
focus that
Shit to do
energy.
as well.
Yeah, and then he had this fucking addiction on top of that, right? Like, he had to feed an addiction that he had. And then he had this girlfriend who had this crazy fucking addiction that he was dealing with as well, who kind of fueled that behavior and was a catalyst when, you know, they were going through that. And it's not like she was a positive force in the sense that she stopped him from being a junkie. She facilitated him being more of a junkie.
Yeah.
Ah, crazy
Yeah.
power couple, though. Those two are both fucking crazy. That's what happens. You're just going to encourage each other's crazy behavior. It's kind of fun to see.
Yeah, well, I think in a lot of ways they got caught in a feedback loop
Yeah.
between each other, and but you know, it's just what happens, innit? And like, you know, I think towards the end he realized he didn't like her as much as he thought he did, and realized, you know, it's like we were saying, like I was saying at the start, he got stuck in this thing where it was like he resented what happened with his parents and was like, I'll never let that happen, and then it did happen to him, you know, and like I think coming to that realization was really fucking tough for him, and I think there's probably many times he tried to make it work, and I just think it was never going to. They were too. I think she was going into a different direction with how she wanted to be. You know, she wanted to be like in movies and stuff, and he was wanting to retreat more from the spotlight, and she kept pulling him towards it, and it was just a mess. You know what I mean? Just a mess.
But I think she kept pulling it towards it for her own gain, not for his. Because, I mean, he was going to be big regardless, obviously, because that's what happened. But the more he was in the spotlight, especially after they got together, the more she was in the spotlight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what she wanted ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah?
Is what it is. Yeah. Yella.
Yilla! Do you want to end it there now? I think we've been here for a couple hours, right? Is there anything else we could talk about? This is like so much more interesting than politics. I really will. It will never get less astounding that people want to be still involved in politics and talk about politics all day, and their whole world is politics, when it's just like, oh my God, you could be into music, you could be into comedy, you could be into some art form that's just constantly giving, and going into the past just constantly gives you more and more.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like you've got decades and decades of shit to talk
Yeah.
about. You know what I mean? Instead of just, you know, Trump fucking took a shit on the White House lawn or whatever the fuck's happening. You know
If
what
you're
I mean?
hype about Trump, whether you hate him or like him, you're just a retard.
Trump 2020.
I'm for it, because I don't live there, so I don't fucking care.
See, like that's the thing. It's like I say that jokingly, and it's like somebody will probably watch it, get pissed off, and be like,
They can just die. Who cares? Fuck them.
"Yeah,
That's how I think.
eat a fucking bullet, bitch.
Go away.
Go away."
I still haven't finished that podcast. That I really like Post Malone. He's also one of these like very weird creative types. You know what I mean? Like, he's always wasted too. He drinks a lot.
yeah,
He smokes a lot.
He drinks too much, yeah, for sure.
He's gonna get
mean, he seems
cirrhosis of the liver.
He seems like a nice kid. He's just.
Oh, great,
I don't think he's the sharpest tool in the box, but.
No, he is. He's a very sharp tool. He just doesn't give a fuck to be.
He's a sharp tool. He's just blunted himself with alcohol.
Yeah. He probably feels too much. I think that's what it is with these like extreme creative types, is that, dude, when you are constantly inundated with this energy to create something and to just put something out there, it's probably exhausting having that kind of a brain. It's like being manic depressive or having any kind of mental illness. You don't get to choose the degree to which that mental illness presents itself. Not to say that creativity is mental illness, but like just that level of of cognitive inundation, right? It's just like constant nuclear war of ideas in your head. And like that's got to be fucking exhausting. That's probably why he has that tattoo under his eyes, always tired or whatever, right? Because his brain is constantly fucking going. Like it's difficult not to sympathize with somebody like that. And then he like, you know, you're doing these shows and you have these crazy tour schedules and you have all this insane shit that you're dealing with. It is way too much for one human being to deal with that much fucking paparazzi and publicity and interview here and interview there. And now you're going to sit into a 3 hour, by the way, that fucking podcast was like 4 hours long, 4.5 hours long or whatever. 4 hours here, 3 hours here. You have to go have the same interview with somebody else and say the same shit. You're going to get asked the same questions. Like, of course you're always tired. Of course you're fucking done. That's not how people are supposed to live their lives. How do you have fucking time to just be yourself and chill out? You know? Like, a lot of these guys who are like this are probably stoked that COVID happened because now they're like, oh, great, we don't have to go to do concert. Like, I could just chill at home and, like, do my thing and not have to worry about any of this kind of stuff. And we're talking about big arena type performances, right? Obviously, comedians, for example, are dying to go back because they're in smaller, more intimate settings. So it's not as draining emotionally and physically to be in a room full of like 100 people or even 1,000 people as opposed to like fucking 50, 60,000 people. And that shit's nuts, man. Like, imagine being Tom York and standing in front of the Glastonbury audience. That's like 100,000 people. Imagine like having the mental fortitude to separate yourself from 100,000 people screaming for you.
Well, the thing as well is it's like I think if you have that many people in front of you, I think at some point it just becomes like a blur.
Yeah.
Mentally. Like it doesn't seem real, so it's like you're probably not even going to take it in. I think the hardest thing is to go from that energy to then sitting in like a green room after the show. You know what I mean? I think that's probably the toughest thing is the adrenaline dump. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too. And then you got to wonder, right? Like if you're doing that fairly consistently, there's a point where you just get numb to it. Right? There has to be.
Yeah.
Or you
Becomes
feel
like
too
an
much.
addiction.
And like for Kurt, it was like, I don't have enough. It's too much pressure. So I have to like, Chris was saying this. He's like, I had alcohol, I had beer and wine. That's how I dealt with the pressure. Kurt had heroin. But they never say anything about Dave. Like, Dave just turned out fine, I guess.
Well, Dave comes from like a well-adjusted family and blah blah blah.
Oh,
and,
okay.
yeah, like his parents are both like high school teachers, and he came from like I think like like the Midwest or something. Like I don't think and like he had a lot of experiences before Nirvana. Like he used to tour around Europe with his band Scream, and I think he's just it's like Kurt says, he's a well-adjusted lad kind of thing.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me that Courtney did not like Dave at all, man. Like, he had called the house once and she was like, why don't you just get another drummer? And he's like, why the fuck would I do that? He's the best drummer in the world.
Yeah.
I
It's
Love
just-
Dave Grohl. He's just such a personality. He's so fantastic. And, like, it's so cute seeing him play his instruments. And, like, he it doesn't even, like, to my ear, I'm like, where did you fuck up? And he's like, oh, fuck, I fucked up. And then he's like, let's take it again, guys. And he'll, like, play it again. And I'm like, where did you fuck up? Like, I didn't even hear that. That's like the high level they're coming at me with is where I'm like, I can't even tell what's happening.
Well, what it is it's in your head when you're recording something.
You want it to sound a certain way, and if it doesn't,
You have an idea. You have an idea of how the beat is gonna land on the 1 or the 2 or the 3 or the 4, and or how it's maybe it's a little bit behind the beat, maybe it's a little bit ahead. Maybe you hear yourself speeding up a little bit when you shouldn't be speeding up, and like it's like you're just hyper aware of everything that you hear, and it's like it's really tough. I mean,
yeah.
it's a tough process. It's really mentally exhausting for sure. I mean, but it's fun, and that's why you keep doing it.
That should have, like, he disappeared for a couple of years, and then when he came back, he just came back with this alacrity that it's just like, it's incomprehensible. The idea that you were so tight with someone, you basically grew up with these guys. You guys were kids when this fame hit you, and it was just like, you're not prepared to deal with all the pressures that come from being suddenly just amazingly successful. And like you're like, one of your best friend dies, like by suicide or whatever the story really is. You can't even imagine. Like, I haven't heard Chris really say very much of anything except for in Montage of Heck, and it wasn't really like, he was in it very seldom, considering,
I, I think he finds it the hardest to talk about because like he was there from like the start.
Yeah.
He went to the same high school as Kurt. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, like imagine, like if that happened with like guys that I went to high school with, like, if like my mate Billy or something like that happened to one of them, like I wouldn't really want to like explore it and talk about it all the time. And
Yeah.
if I did, it would probably take a long fucking time for me to get to the point where I would want to do that. So, and maybe he just thinks it's pointless at this point. I mean, one of the strangest things to watch was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame acceptance speech, and like Dave was there, Courtney was there, Chris was there. It was kind of tough to watch, like especially with Courtney being there. Like, there's obviously a lot of wounds that are still open in those relationships.
Well, like,
But
she went after them. Wasn't there a lawsuit between them too? Because obviously she got the rights to publishing and all that kind of stuff with Nirvana, because she was still married to him technically. And then she was fighting with Dave and Chris about that kind of stuff, which is fucking nuts to me. That is so
well,
crazy that you would do that.
it was the last song they ever recorded. You're right.
Yeah.
Um, she wanted to release it as a single,
Mm-hmm.
and Dave and Chris wanted to put it on a like greatest hits kind of compilation album.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it ended up coming. It's just a black cover with like a silver Nirvana logo.
Mm-hmm.
I have it somewhere, but yeah, and it's still sold as many copies as it would have as a single. But like
Mm-hmm.
she was arguing she wanted it to come out as a single, but then it
Mm-hmm.
just ended up coming out on that best of album. And yeah, I mean that song's fucking brilliant. It's just that's probably one of my
As you know,
favorite
you're
ones.
right on In Utero. I can't even remember because once I start listening to it, I just go right from the beginning to the end. You know what I mean?
No,
Let's
no,
see.
it was recorded like a couple of months after Neutro came out, I think. Yeah.
Oh no, it's not on here. Let's see if it is on Spotify.
It should be.
Oh, it is. You're right. It's there.
Yeah. I- Is it on that album,
Ah,
like compilation album?
let's see. View album. Yeah, the one with the black cover. It came out in 2002. It's just black, and then in gray it says Nirvana on it.
Yeah, I have the CD somewhere. It's good. It's a good album. That it's just kind of like it's all the hits really,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's the first song on it. And that like
Yeah, it is. You know, you're right. It is the first song on it.
I
About a
used to listen
girl,
to it.
been a son, Sliver, aka Silver. Smells like Teen
Yeah.
Spirit, Come As You Are, Lithium, In Bloom. That was probably their biggest track, hey? Smells like Teen Spirit.
Um. Yeah, but then it's like I wonder how well like Heart Shaped Box does in metrics.
That video is fucking fantastic. I can't believe I saw that for the first time just like last week as well. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
good. But it's so much better now that I know that he created the art for it and the vision was entirely his. Because in an interview that I watched where he's talking about how like Heart-shaped box turned out exactly how he wanted it, and he was so pleased with how it turned out, and he was happy with everybody that he worked with, and blah 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 blah. And he was talking about the guy who I think directed the video, who added that really large lady who had the doll on in utero painted on her body. She was just like reaching out.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like,
She's
he
in
just
like
added that. I didn't. That wasn't my idea. That was his idea, and it just worked out so great. Like everything just worked out perfectly for that video.
Yeah, I think it was Gus Van Sant who directed that. And the guy, the old guy on the cross, was actually meant to be. They wanted to get William Burroughs to play that character, but they thought it would be too like it would belittle him, so they didn't ask him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and also like being an old frail guy, being up on a cross for like hours in a fucking music video shoot, it's not the best thing.
Yeah. That little
Yeah,
girl in the KKK outfit was just like fucking crazy too.
yeah, and then she throws the hood into the black pool of water, and then it like
And it like starts to like that liquid, that black starts to crawl up. But then like as she tossed it, didn't it also turn into butterflies?
something like that. I can't remember. But there's a director's cut and then there's a Kurt Cobain cut as well. You should check out
Oh,
that as well.
I didn't know that.
Slightly different. There's a video on YouTube of them like side by side and they're like slightly different. But yeah, Kurt used to edit a lot. I mean, he practically edited the Teen Spirit video as well. Yeah.
Ah, he's so amazing. Amazing artist.
Yeah.
But man,
I'm
like
glad you're
in
following
the
it.
short amount of time that he was around and he was a prominent face in the music industry, like he put out a lot and he gave a lot, and there's just like such a rich tapestry of Kurt Cobain, and it's only 2 years or like 2 or 3 years, right? Like when was Bleach? 89?
Bleach was 89.
Yeah,
Nevermind was 91. In Utero was 93. And
yeah.
I think Incesticide came out like a couple of months after Nevermind. And then Muddy Banks of the Wish Car came out like, I think it was like 97, 98. And then that album we were just talking about, You Know You're Right, came out 2002. And then there's all the demo stuff and the acoustic home recordings that came out like,
See, I think
2005.
I've been refraining from listening to the MTV Unplugged stuff because I actually just want to watch it. Like the whole performance, the production, they had lilies. They were surrounded by lilies and candles. Lilies are my favorite flower. So I
That
was
was
just like,
Kurt's idea.
yeah, they're beautiful. Favorite flower.
Kurt put all that together and there's actually, you can watch the rehearsal as well on YouTube, which is great because you see them interacting and stuff and like talking about things. And there's a documentary about it, and then there's like the full performance, but I don't think the full performance is on YouTube, which is kind of shit. But then there's also the live at the Paramount
Yeah.
Theater, which is amazing because that's like when they were at the height of their performance, like I think around like somewhere around 92. Just they're flawless. That gig, like, they're amazing.
Sorry, what was that one again? Repeat it.
Live at the Paramount. You see all the kids outside and that, they're all like, long haired fucking.
Scallies
Yeah.
like you.
Yeah. It's good. I think you actually see, you can actually, outside the theater, you see Tracy, Kurt's.
She
Like,
is just like so sweet. But like in About a Son, he actually mentions like I didn't want to be with Tracy anymore. I wanted to be with someone who was like equally as creative with me that I could like sit down and create stuff with and like, be excited by. She just wanted to do typical American stuff. Like we would always be like shopping for groceries or like doing regular American shit. And he's like, I just wanted someone to be creative with. So it's understandable why he really took a liking to Courtney, which he described more in About a Son than anywhere else. He really did love her. It wasn't just like I'm like unsure. He did, and he says that. And yeah, it didn't end in the greatest way, and he didn't want to be with her at the end because obviously, I think that much crazy between two people, unless it's managed instead of like allowed to further descend into chaos or ascend, depending how you look at it, it's just it gasses you out.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a lot. It's a lot of stimulus to deal with, especially with all the other shit that was going on. Sure, yeah.
The thing is like people like them are already highly stimulated by just the things that are popping into their mind. It's
Oh, yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
You look so sleepy. Are you ready for bed?
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
You want to call it a night then?
Let's call it a night.
All right then.
We'll go have a smoke or something. And chat.
Yeah, we'll go chill for a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds.
Okay, bye!